The repairer is introduced as one who can mend anything, from weapons to ornaments, fixing any damage or distortion. This unique skill set goes beyond mere craftsmanship, restoring the memories woven within each object. The tale begins with a determined hand gripping a sword, declaring, "All right." Inside a building, a man angrily slams a shield onto the floor, shouting that nobody will use this piece of trash. He berates Lyle, who only knows how to do repairs and nothing else, accusing him of being allowed to stay in the party out of pity. Lyle tries to defend himself, pointing out that the shield deflected a wyvern's attack during an A-rank mission, crediting his skills. The angry man retorts that an S-rank mission and handing over a shoddy shield is unacceptable, calling Lyle's repairs crappy and mocking that he can't even fight yet lingers in the party. Lyle reflects that although others might call his repairs crappy, he has been repairing weapons and parts to raise funds for his own shop. The angry man declares that Lyle's useless tasks end today and that he is out of the party. Lyle quietly accepts, thanking him for everything as he turns to leave. The man slumps in his chair, frustrated, while Lyle walks away, leaving the room behind. A knight at a table reacts with surprise as a woman in armor enters holding a battered shield. She praises the shield's ability to deflect a wyvern's attack and asks if it belongs to the man she just kicked out of the party. She then reaches out to take the shield. The woman confirms she doesn't need the shield anymore and decides to take it. As she turns to leave, the knight calls the expelled man an odd fellow and wonders why she bothers taking trash. The woman walks away, dismissing the knight's comment, while the knight watches her go. Lyle walks alone through the town, reflecting on his situation. He admits that, even if he continued adventuring, no party would want a non-combatant like him. The angry man's harsh words echo in his mind, calling his repairs worthless and a burden. Lyle sits on a bench, troubled and unsure of what to do despite believing he was doing his best. Still sitting on the bench, Lyle laments being short on funds despite getting closer to his dream. Suddenly, the woman from before approaches and greets him as Mr. Repairman. She offers him a job, catching Lyle off guard as she asks if he would accept work from her. Lyle wonders if the man who approached him is an adventurer and how he knew Lyle specializes in repairs. The man silently hands him a broken sword, asking him to name his price for fixing it. Lyle is taken aback, quietly responding with a confused. Inside a workshop, Lyle asks if the sword belongs to the woman, Rindo-san, who confirms it is cherished. He notes the sword has seen much use but has been well cared for, spotting a fading family crest on it. Lyle examines the sword closely, admitting that given its age, he might not be able to restore it perfectly. Still, he promises to do his utmost best and asks if that would be acceptable. Rindo-san listens intently, her expression calm. The woman smiles and says that's perfectly fine by her, entrusting the sword to Lyle's care. He grips the sword firmly, determined, and replies with a resolute, "Okay. Consider it done." Lyle sits alone at a table, preparing to work. He reaches out and carefully picks up the broken sword, gripping its worn hilt. Suddenly, a young boy calls out to him, warning that if he stays too long, his father will scold him. The boy's cheerful voice fills the room as he waves energetically. The boy approaches an elderly man working by the window, calling him grandpa and admiring a decorative plate. He asks if his grandfather made it. The old man smiles softly, then explains that he doesn't make things but repairs them. The boy looks up, curious, repeating the word, repair. The grandfather elaborates, saying he mends various items, restoring their color, shape, and the memories imbued within them. The boy listens intently, his eyes sparkling with wonder as he softly calls him grandpa. Inspired, the boy declares he wants to try repairing things too. The grandfather gently places a hand on his shoulder, guiding him as they sit together at the table. Lyle focuses intently, carefully working on the sword's hilt with precise tools, his expression determined and thoughtful. Lyle carefully polishes the sword's hilt, surrounded by his tools on the table. He focuses intensely, then sprays a liquid onto the sword, sweat beading on his forehead. The forge fire burns steadily as he works. The sword gleams as Lyle wipes it down, his exhaustion clear but determination shining through. He exhales deeply, then smiles brightly, declaring the job done. The sword's emblem sparkles, restored to pristine condition. The next day, Lyle nervously approaches a woman named Rindo, holding out the repaired sword. He hesitates, then asks if she is sure about something. Presenting a large bowl overflowing with coins, Rindo listens calmly, concerned about the amount. Rindo praises Lyle's exceptional work and asks why he took the job. Lyle admits he saw her at the tavern before. Suddenly, a harsh voice interrupts, declaring Lyle is out of the party and his useless tasks end today, leaving Lyle tense and shocked. He recalls the shield he fixed, Noting it looked heavily used but had no fresh or significant damage, its resilience to monster attacks and quality surpassed what a regular repairman could achieve. He realizes the repairman must have trained hard. He admits he still considers himself a novice compared to the repairman he admires. The workshop left by his grandfather, a repairman, holds cherished memories but limited capabilities. Determined, he knows he must hone his skills further and aims to open his own shop as the first step. She quietly reveals that the sword he repaired was left to her by her late father. He reacts with surprise, absorbing the weight of her words. He confirms the sword is hers, noticing a fading family crest. She explains that since her rookie adventurer days, she's used it flamboyantly, which caused it to wear down significantly. She holds the repaired sword with a calm expression, explaining she thought she couldn't use it anymore, but he has mended it for her. She adds that he has woven together the emotions she inherited from her father, leaving him speechless. Memories of a young boy with his grandfather fill his mind. The warmth and lessons imbued in those moments. He resolves to become a repairman like his grandpa. A repairman who can mend memories. The young man greets her respectfully, thanking her for entrusting him with the sword. She smiles warmly, insisting she should be the one thanking him, and begins to say something else. Sitting across the table, she asks if he truly believes his dream will come true. His eyes widen in surprise, and he quietly affirms with a determined yes, gripping his apron as he stands. Lal clenches his fist with fierce determination, declaring he will definitely make his dream come true. The woman smiles knowingly, telling him he'll be even busier from now on. Lyle, puzzled, hesitantly agrees. A few days later, deep within a high-difficulty dungeon, a massive dragon roars fiercely at the entrance. Two adventurers stare in shock, realizing the danger despite barely having ventured inside. The dragon advances, growling menacingly. The adventurers acknowledge their current gear isn't enough to defeat it and urgently decide to retreat for now. One draws a sword, preparing to flee. The woman from before swiftly draws her sword, her hair flowing as she readies herself for battle, her focused gaze cutting through the tension. The dragon breathes fire fiercely as the woman dashes forward, her hair flowing wildly. She shouts that he's being reckless and warns there's no way he can handle the dragon with his flimsy sword. Her eyes narrow with focus as she lunges, swinging her sword with deadly precision. The blade cuts through the air, aimed straight at the beast. The dragon recoils from the strike, smoke and debris scattering. Two adventurers watch in stunned silence, one gasping in disbelief, unable to believe what they just witnessed. The woman lowers her sword, a faint smile breaking through her intense gaze. She admits quietly that, as she thought, he's quite something. A quiet street scene shows people entering a building while a man sits on a bench reading. Inside, a man greets a woman in armor as she enters, saying, "Welcome to Repair the Memories." He brightens and calls out, "Rindo-san." The woman in armor compliments the man on his busy shop, mentioning she hesitated to enter because of the constant customers. He explains the space serves as both workshop and store, connected to his atelier. Though it's a bit cramped, she credits her promotion for the thriving business, and he asks what she means by promotion. The armored woman reveals she leads an SSS-Rank party and has told her adventurer acquaintances about a wonderful repairman she knows. The man is surprised, realizing why business has been so busy despite just opening the shop. He worries that overpraising might backfire on him. Another man arrives, asking the repairman if he can take another job today. The armored woman asks him to wait a moment. She smiles warmly, impressed that the repairman has repeat customers in just a few days. The woman in armor smiles confidently, saying that at this rate, she feels assured leaving tasks to him. She then asks how long she will be kept waiting. The woman apologizes as she approaches, her long skirt and boots stepping forward on the cobblestone path. A serious young woman in a formal dress addresses the armored woman as Asha-sama, her expression stern and composed. The narration questions who the repairman's next client might be. The repairman sighs in relief as things finally settle down. Recalling Rindo's busy shop, he thanks a departing customer for their patronage. Suddenly, the door swings open, and a tall armored man and a serious young woman in a formal dress enter. The repairman freezes, surprised by their arrival. Inside a quiet room, the young woman asserts her identity as Asha, rejecting being called a mere commoner. She demands the repairman be beheaded immediately, shocking the man beside her who pleads for calm. Asha introduces the repairman as Lyle, owner of Repair the Memories and a highly skilled craftsman she recommends. Lyle nervously denies being skilled, but Asha's serious gaze remains fixed on him. Lyle examines a worn, old child's dress laid out on a table, noting its poor condition. Asha explains she wouldn't be here without Rindo's recommendation. while Lyle quietly asks about the dress, preparing to take on the new repair job. Asha asks if Lyle can tell what the item is, firmly stating its address. Lyle nervously clarifies his earlier words, laughing awkwardly. He notes she's not easy to approach. The armored man explains the dress belonged to Asha's mother when she was a child. Lyle repeats in surprise that it's Asha's mother's dress. He observes the dress is damaged but well-crafted, clearly made by a skilled artisan. He questions why it was brought here. Asha begins to explain, turning away from him. Asha sharply interrupts, telling Rindo to stop and ordering him to repair the dress promptly. She leaves the room without further explanation, leaving Lyle sitting quietly beside the dress, unsure how to respond. She excuses herself and departs quickly, leaving Lyle to wonder about her sudden urgency. As she leaves, he calls out to Rindo, concerned about the situation. Apologizing for leaving abruptly without explanation, the armored man admits he wanted to understand why Asha was in such a hurry. Lyle listens intently, sensing the weight behind the urgency. The man explains that as a repairman, his job goes beyond fixing items. It involves understanding the emotions and stories woven into them. He reveals he has been close to Asha's mother, Miranda-sama. Since then, a silhouette of Miranda in an elegant dress appears as he begins to explain the significance of the dress. Lyle asks if Asha's mother is suffering from an incurable disease. The man confirms, describing a mysterious illness no doctor can cure. He adds that her condition worsens daily and she remains bedridden. Lyle reacts with sympathy, calling the situation terrible. The armored man apologizes on Asha's behalf for her earlier rudeness, explaining it stems from her mother's situation. Asha looks upset in a small inset. Lyle quickly reassures her that the apology is unnecessary. Understanding the circumstances, he then steers the conversation back to the dress, eager to learn more. The man explains the dress holds sentimental value for Miranda-sama. Gifted by someone dear, she wore it innocently almost every day as a child and kept it repaired by renowned artisans despite its wear. The armored woman urgently asks if he can lend his expertise to restore it. The man accepts, recognizing this as Rindo-san's wish too, and pledges to take care of the repair. Begging to be allowed, the woman thanks him and expresses her trust, but he admits having a concern. He reflects that the dress is so old its original appearance is unclear and he needs to ask Miranda-san about it. He recalls his grandfather's term memory repair. But this case is too unusual for a standard fix, the woman agrees thoughtfully. The man recalls the mention of a renowned repairman who fixed the dress before and wonders if the clue might be closer than he thought. He excitedly thanks Rindo-san, convinced he may have just found a lead. Several days later, a young man trudges through the cobblestone streets, studying a letter with a weary sigh. He worries about missing key parts needed to recreate a dress and fears Asha-san's fury if she knew he asked Rindo-san for her address. Suddenly, he arrives at an imposing mansion, shocked that such a place could be an ordinary home. He nervously approaches the gate and calls out, but a stern guard demands to know what he wants. The young man introduces himself as Lyle Disguile, the repairman Asha-san commissioned for the dress. Inside, a woman with long hair and a large bow hears the commotion and looks toward the gate, curious. The woman, Asha, confronts him sharply, demanding why he is there. Lyle assures her he is not suspicious and only has something to ask. She accuses him of showing up uninvited and questions how he found her home. He apologizes and explains he just needed to ask something. She suspects Rindo was involved in sending him. Lyle presents a detailed drawing, explaining he tried to recreate the dress based on past repair records but noticed a missing part on the sleeve where jewelry or an ornament was once attached. He wants to restore it as close to the original as possible for her mother, so he came to ask about the missing piece. Despite searching every jewelry store in town, the right part for the dress couldn't be found. She thought asking directly would be best and pleads for any information. Determined to keep looking, clenching the papers tightly, she sets off with renewed resolve. Inside, she quietly calls out to her mother, holding the dress close. The mother, standing in a well-furnished room, listens as the girl asks why she won't discard the tattered dress. The mother hesitates, saying it might be too early to explain, but acknowledges the dress holds a precious memory. The mother gently touches the dress, noticing the brooch's clasp is loose and about to fall off. The girl points this out, concerned it might get lost. The mother accepts the dress's fragile state with a soft smile, carefully holding the brooch. The mother clasps the girl's hand warmly, telling her she will grow into a beautiful woman. She encourages her to have many experiences, meet someone wonderful, and expresses her wish to see that forever. Asha clutches a delicate brooch tightly in her hands, her expression solemn and determined. As twilight fades, she quietly opens the door and steps out into the night, the crescent moon hanging low in the starry sky. Inside a cluttered room, A frustrated man throws his hands to his head, lamenting his failure to find the missing piece for the dress despite being so close to completion. He contemplates searching all night again, but is interrupted when Asha quietly calls his name, surprising him with her unexpected visit at this late hour. Bowing politely, Asha apologizes for the late intrusion and admits it feels impolite to ask after commissioning him. But she wants to witness his determination firsthand. She questions why he is going to such lengths for someone else's dress, her gaze steady and sincere as she awaits his answer. Asha rushes into the room, urgently calling out to Lyle and Rindo about a looming time limit. She realizes the person in the room is her mother and bolts toward her, but Rindo and Lyle reach out, pleading for her to wait. The scene shifts to a grand bedroom at night where Miranda lies in bed, surrounded by concerned attendants. An older man anxiously wonders where Asha could be at such a critical moment, pleading that Miranda can't face this yet. Asha enters the room quietly as the older man calls her name. He addresses her directly, mentioning the dress she wears, his expression heavy with concern. Standing beside Miranda's bed, Asha softly calls her mother. Miranda stirs weakly, responding faintly, while Rindo and Miranda's armored companion watch silently, the weight of the moment pressing down on them all. Asha smiles warmly, her hands clasped to her chest as she declares how truly happy she is to be her mother's daughter. The room is quiet, the older man sitting beside Miranda's bed as Asha's heartfelt words fill the space. She reflects on words spoken long ago, admitting she still doesn't fully understand their meaning but promises to become a wonderful woman like her mother someday. She clasps her hands tightly, determination shining in her eyes as she speaks softly. Miranda's eyes flutter open, her gaze meeting Asha's as she asks her to keep watching over her while she finds her happiness. Tears stream down Miranda's face, her voice fragile yet filled with love as she calls Asha's name. Her tearful smile shines with beauty and gratitude. Meanwhile, a young boy arrives carrying a large wrapped bundle, and Asha excitedly holds up a delicate dress, her joy unmistakable as they prepare to continue their journey together. A young girl beams with excitement as she holds up a delicate dress, sparkling with promise. A maid smiles warmly behind her, sharing in the joy. Outside, the girl twirls happily in the dress, a wide-brimmed hat completing her look. A boy playfully pulls her hand, winking as they enjoy the moment together. Later, the two pore over a book, the girl sweating nervously while the boy eagerly points at the pages. The boy spreads his arms wide in a field of flowers, his joy infectious. The girl sits among the blooms, wearing a flower crown and clutching a bouquet, her smile radiant. The boy's cheerful expression fills the next panel, followed by an older man's gentle, tearful gaze. The scene shifts to the girl lying peacefully in bed, tears streaming down her face. Petals drift softly through the air, surrounding a simple but heartfelt thank you. The exterior of a grand church appears, its windows glowing as silhouettes gather inside. The solemn atmosphere contrasts with the gentle fall of petals, marking a poignant farewell. Several days later, a woman with long hair and a composed expression stands quietly indoors. She speaks softly, acknowledging the passage of time. A young man, carrying a box, hears a doorbell and looks up in surprise. The woman addresses him gently, her hands clasped nervously, as he recognizes her and calls her name. The woman apologizes sincerely for her rude behavior the other day and thanks him for mending her mother's dress. She explains the dress holds sentimental value, worn innocently almost every day as a child and carefully repaired by renowned artisans. She then hands over an envelope, saying it's one of the important items her mother left behind and felt it would be better to give it to him. The young man looks puzzled but takes the envelope. The woman watches quietly as he unfolds the letter inside. He recognizes it immediately and murmurs that the narration reveals the letter was addressed by Miranda to a certain repairman. Her grandfather, lawn disguise. It is an apology for not attending his funeral and a thank you for all the kindness he showed her during his life. The young man reflects on the letter's meaning. He recalls that his grandfather had mended that same dress countless times. He thought the man might be the famous repairman Rindo was referring to. The young man and the woman share a quiet moment, understanding that all they wanted was to protect those precious memories. She admits she doubted him at first, feeling uneasy about entrusting her mother's precious memories to someone else. She was unsure if her decision was right or wrong. He smiles warmly, confessing he felt the same way. He reassures her with a bright smile, acknowledging her doubts and emphasizing the importance of their growing friendship. She snaps at him to stop addressing her like a stranger, insisting they remain on friendly terms and asking him to call her Asha. He stammers, caught off guard. She reveals she never told him she is the daughter of a duke, explaining it was never brought up. He laughs nervously, admitting he never would have guessed from her demeanor. His thoughts confirm she always carried an air of importance, and the mansion's grandeur now makes sense. Miranda appears, requesting him to take on a special task. To complete the dress from Asha's memories, he hesitates but agrees, feeling that simply thanking them isn't enough. She looks at him with a questioning expression as he accepts the responsibility. He expresses his hope to keep in touch with her, calling her by name, Asha. She responds with a warm, bright smile, affirming his sentiment. Asha wonders aloud where Rindo has gone, prompting him to turn in surprise. Suddenly, a disheveled and nervous young man bursts through the door, apologizing for the interruption. The young man nervously approaches Rindo, who asks what the matter is. The man hurriedly presents something to Rindo, urgently requesting him to repair it. Rindo looks down at the item, a delicate piece of fabric with an ornate clasp, as the young man holds it out with a worried expression. Rindo's face shows surprise and concern as he takes in the request. Rindo carefully examines the delicate fabric with an ornate clasp, asking what it is. The young man, breathless and desperate, pleads urgently for Rindo to repair it, promising he will be sure to pay and counting on him. Without waiting for a response, the young man rushes away, leaving Rindo stunned and holding the fragile piece in his hands. Under the night sky, Asha reflects on the hairpin. Feeling she's seen it before, she wonders if it might belong to Rindo's mother. Especially since a boy brought it in, the thought lingers, catching her attention deeply. Rindo considers the situation, suspecting something strange. He notes the boy's rough clothes suggest he's from the slums, but the hairpin's expensive materials make him doubt it was stolen. He acknowledges that while some impoverished people resort to crime, he doesn't believe that's the case here. Suddenly, a disheveled young man appears, urgently pleading with Rindo to repair the hairpin. His earnest eyes convince them to help. Asha offers to assist in finding the hairpin's origin, and Rindo agrees, determined to get to the bottom of this. They prepare to move forward, acknowledging there's no turning back now. The next day at Elta Castle, Asha searches through dictionaries, portraits, and records, trying to find any clue about the hairpin's origin. Despite thorough research, including her own home, she has yet to find anything matching the ornament, leaving her still puzzled. Asha contemplates her desire to help Lyle but hesitates, knowing her father's business will keep her occupied for some time. As she walks through the castle grounds, she is greeted politely by a young girl sitting nearby, who calls her Princess Fran and hopes she's not interrupting. The girl introduces herself warmly as Fran Elta Aliasjo, Princess of the Kingdom of Elta, expressing happiness to see Asha again. Fran explains she decided to take a stroll while her father attends to matters with the king. She reveals she was talking to a little flower fairy, prompting Asha to ask what she means. Fran's eyes sparkle as she describes the fairy, and Asha smiles brightly, saying it sounds like fun. The fairy appears beside Asha, shimmering gently as she holds it in her hand. Asha notices something unusual and freezes. Two children whisper nervously, pointing at empty air. Asha's gaze sharpens as she recalls the fairy Fran mentioned. She quietly calls out, "Wani-chan?" seeking reassurance, but remains silent herself. Fran turns, sensing Asha's attention. She apologizes for being lost in thought, then smiles gently. Asha, surprised, listens as Fran says she understands and has something important to ask. Fran's expression is calm but serious as she addresses Asha directly. She reveals her question concerns the hairpin Asha wears, her tone steady and sincere. The scene shifts to a quiet townscape, emphasizing the weight of the conversation. Meanwhile, Lal searches through a slum area, following the direction a boy ran. He notes the complexity of the area and the presence of a slum, preparing himself for a difficult search. Suddenly, something catches his attention, startling him. Two children corner Tenya, demanding he hand over his hairpin, calling him creepy for muttering to himself. One accuses him of having no right to such an expensive item. Tenya defiantly refuses, shouting back at his tormentor. The aggressor lunges forward, fists raised, enraged by Tenya's defiance. Suddenly, a young man intervenes, grabbing the attacker's arm and commanding him to stop. The attacker recoils in surprise, demanding to know who this newcomer is. The young man calmly declares he is Tenya's friend and warns that he won't tolerate any more harm. The attacker and his companion flee as the young man urges Tenya to leave quickly. The young man introduces himself as Lyle and apologizes for the sudden appearance. He asks Tenya about the children's behavior. Tenya explains they steal to survive and targeted him because they knew his hairpin was valuable, having broken it during a previous theft attempt. Lyle processes this grim reality quietly. Tenya admits he refuses to be complicit in the children's crimes, knowing the fairies would be angry if he did. He explains he can hear the fairies' voices since birth, which makes others think he's strange. His parents died, leaving him alone, and he's often treated poorly because of his gift. The weight of his isolation and the burden of his secret settle heavily around him. Tenya clenches his fists, determined not to give up the hairpin despite what others say. Lal places a reassuring hand on Tenya's shoulder, smiling warmly as he tells him he believes what Tenya said. He insists Tenya isn't creepy or crazy, acknowledging how hard Tenya tried to protect the hairpin even though it broke. Tenya's face darkens with emotion as Lal calls him by name, offering comfort. Tears stream down Tenya's face as Lal praises him for being brave. Lal apologizes for leaving abruptly before and explains he came back to ask more about the hairpin. Tenya, sitting alone on a crate, promises to tell everything since Lal believes him. He reveals he recently met a mysterious girl who can also see the fairies. A radiant girl in a hooded cloak adorned with butterfly motifs gestures gracefully. Tenya approaches her, surprised. She asks if Tenya can also see the fairies. Her expression hopeful and gentle. The scene shifts to a quiet, broken-down building where they stand facing each other as she poses the question. Lal questions Fran about her day, confirming she got lost after separating from her guardian. Fran admits it's her first time in this place despite having been lost before. She explains she followed the fairies' guidance, which led her here. The girl's calm, sincere expression contrasts with the cracked walls around them, emphasizing the strange yet fateful encounter. Tenya realizes the girl is like him. She can hear the fairies too. The girl quietly says the fairies are looking for her. He quickly offers to take her back to her adult friends, and she agrees. They walk together through the town's narrow streets and broken buildings. A guard calls out urgently, searching for Princess Fran, while Tenya and the girl continue on. Tenya reassures Fran that everyone must be worried and urges her to be careful. He then offers her a small, shining hairpin. Both look at it with wide eyes, touched by the gesture. Fran thanks Tenya sincerely, complimenting his cute face and encouraging him to show it more. Flustered, Tenya protests, embarrassed that she called him cute and that the hairpin looks so expensive. Fran insists he accept it, leaving him speechless. A kind woman offers to lend a precious item, asking only that it be returned someday. The girl, wearing the hairpin, blushes in surprise and gratitude as she watches the woman walk away, while a distant figure watches her from afar. The young man in an apron reflects on the hairpin's origin, asking if the girl knows where the woman is. She admits she cannot meet her, revealing that Fran is the princess of the kingdom. The girl explains she lacks the social standing to see Fran, who is a princess, while she is just an orphan. Despite this, they've communicated through the fairies since their first meeting, surprising the young man. The girl recalls how Fran told her something through the fairies the previous day, promising that someday, when she becomes a self-made man, things will change. The scene ends with the girl looking determined, holding onto that hope. The princess smiles gently, confident that he will come back on his own strength to return the hairpin to her. Behind her, a woman with a black ribbon in her hair stands silently, watching the horizon. The girl, bruised but determined, clenches her fist and declares she will return the hairpin with her own power. A young man in the background looks on, surprised by her resolve. The young man acknowledges that the only thing he can do is repair the hairpin, but promises to always help with anything else if needed. He encourages her to make sure her feelings reach the princess. The girl gratefully accepts, and the young man offers to introduce her to someone who can help immediately. Later, in a quiet room, the woman with the black ribbon reflects on how much they've taken on. She wonders if the princess feels the same way about the young man. She reveals that the princess believes he will come to see her one day, and that she will wait patiently until then. Their statuses and where they live are polar opposites. Yet they both hear the fairies. It's almost as if they're part of a real fairy tale. They met by coincidence like that. The young man agrees quietly. Then the woman asks what he and Tenya did after that. He hesitates, preparing to explain. Suddenly, a cheerful voice greets them with a warm smile, saying it's been a long time. The woman reacts with surprise, calling out the name Lyle. The woman explains she's going with Rindo today to complete her first commission since becoming an adventurer. She holds out a damaged weapon, pleading for it to be repaired. The young man and the woman with the black ribbon smile brightly, accepting the request without hesitation. The scene shifts to a quiet street, signaling the start of their new task. Rows of books line the shelves in a quiet room, while outside, a peaceful village spreads beneath a large tree. A hand presses firmly on an old, worn book, its cover cracked and fragile. The figure of an elf, shadowed and tense, clenches a fist tightly, his face shadowed with anger. He vows never to forgive the detestable Repairman, his jaw tightening with bitter resolve as an unsettling shadow creeps closer. A memory of bygone days unfolds as a young man peeks cautiously from behind a door, his eyes wide with surprise. The quiet street outside contrasts with the tense scene inside. where a man angrily confronts an older figure, accusing him of trying to turn his grandson into an apprentice. His voice rises with bitter resolve, declaring he will never allow his son to become a repairman. The older man retorts sharply, accusing the younger of neglecting family feelings, his mother's and his own. While burying himself in work, he scoffs at the claim of being the best repairman in the royal capital, his tone dripping with disdain. The room is filled with tension as the two men face off. The older man reflects quietly, holding a worn book, murmuring about feelings and admitting perhaps he hasn't changed since that time. The young man lies awake in bed, sweat beading on his face, his expression troubled as the weight of the past and present presses on him. Awakening suddenly, the young man questions if it was all a dream. His gaze falls on a letter lying on a nearby table, gathering his resolve. He reminds himself that today is an important day, the moment he must face. Lal nervously bows, overwhelmed by the honor of receiving a visit from the king himself. The woman beside him assures him that his formalities are unnecessary, and the king laughs warmly, putting Lyle at ease. The repairman admits he never imagined such a moment. The king reflects on how rumors of a famous repairman have spread through the castle, and he's pleased to have more noble clients lately. He acknowledges Lyle's good service to his daughter, Fran. Before presenting a worn, damaged book, the king asks Lyle to hear him out and requests his expertise to repair the item. Lyle learns the book is the original holy scripture of the Church of St. Lugnica, the ancient religion of the elves. The king explains the scripture's magical properties. Written in an ancient elvish alphabet whose letters possess inherent magic, even without magic power. Speaking certain words activates powerful ancient spells like fire or ice, as if by miracle. The king admits the ancient elves' faith has long died out, and their language has become a phantom tongue. He asks Lyle to repair the book despite its damaged state and the need to decipher the ancient script. Lyle is surprised by the importance of the document, but the king tells him not to worry and grants permission to enter and begin the work. An elf named Tillo introduces himself to Lyle, explaining he has come from the village of the elves to assist with repairs. He will help decipher the ancient scripture until the repairs are complete, starting today. The king formally asks Lyle if he will accept the request to repair the holy scripture. Lyle hesitates. While the king's expression is serious, outside, a concerned voice asks the king what he is thinking. The king reflects quietly, acknowledging that Lyle must have a different reason for accepting the task. He smirks slightly, deciding to give his grandson a test to see what he is truly capable of. The castle looms as the setting for this challenge. Lyle works diligently on the ancient scripture, carefully scraping and repairing the damaged pages. He thinks about the mysterious magic held within the ancient elvish alphabet. Noting that modern magic has mostly replaced it and only a few still research it, he hopes to witness the ancient magic activated at least once if he can complete the repair. Lyle sighs with relief, having repaired part of the scripture's binding, but insists it must look perfect if he is to fix it. Tillo suggests taking a short break, and Lyle agrees. Tillo asks how the repairs are progressing. Noting the interior might be problematic, he points out the letters are faded and the bookworm damage is severe, so it may take longer until Lyle can help. Tillo asks where Lyle learned his repair techniques. Lyle explains his mentor was his grandfather, who was also a repairman. Tillo praises Lyle's talent, noting his young age, shop ownership, and the king's direct request for the scripture's repair. Lyle modestly downplays his skills. Lyle recalls his grandfather, who passed away when he was young, leaving vague memories. He asks Tillo if he wants to hear stories about his grandfather. Tillo agrees, and Lyle explains the atelier he inherited from him. He fondly remembers visiting his grandfather while he worked and pretending to be a repairman himself. He confirms he decided to become a repairman inspired by his grandfather, whose name was well known in the royal capital. He learned all the necessary techniques and knowledge from him. Lyle recalls one important lesson. The most vital thing for a repairman is to become close with the client, to weave back together the thoughts and feelings an object embodies. No matter the item, it holds a history and memories from the time spent with its owner. Human emotions are invisible and vary, making it difficult to grasp. Lyle recalls his grandfather saying it took a long time to truly understand this. Tillo apologizes for prying into Lyle's past, but Lyle assures him it's no problem, since Lyle can't read ancient Elvish. Having Tillo's understanding of the elves' feelings in the scripture is reassuring. Lyle pledges to do everything he can to repair it and asks for Tillo's help. He agrees without hesitation. Lyle suddenly wonders about Tillo's hometown and the elves' history, asking if he can learn more about him too. Tillo, recalling some business, apologizes for delaying the work and promises to share about himself another time before leaving. Lyle clenches his fist, anger flaring at Tillo's question about becoming close with clients. He fiercely declares that Tillo has no right to say those words, revealing himself as the grandson of the deplorable repairman. Lyle disguise. Lal notices Tillo's mood seems off and wonders what happened. He finds a torn page in the scripture, both sides blank with no sign of replacement. The king had mentioned this before. Someone tried repairing it decades ago, but Lal questions how such an important document ended up damaged like this. Searching for clues, Lal looks through bookshelves hoping to find similar repairs. He picks up a dictionary full of notes, then discovers a bookmark in a diary entry labeled, "Today's Request." He realizes this might hold the key to fixing the scripture. A man questions if Lyle is repairing some old book, calling the idea absurd. He explains the scripture is not just any old book but a royal request. Trusting Lyle as the best repairman in the capital, Lyle scoffs, feeling underestimated, and declares that even the best repairman in the world can't fix this. Lyle, frustrated, admits he can't read the scripture at all and calls the request dumb. He wonders what value a musty old book could have. Suddenly, he notices someone entering early in the morning and turns around, surprised and curious about the visitor. A woman with pointed elf ears introduces herself as Eliza, saying she has come from the village of the elves. She thanks Lond for accepting the village chief's request and explains she has been sent to assist with his repairs. Lond reacts with surprise and a bit of awe. Eliza confirms that the repairs are the job she accepted and insists she will complete it on her own. Lond laughs nervously, trying to process her determination. Lond questions what she means by completing the repairs alone. Eliza explains that borrowing someone else's help would tarnish her name as a repairman. She proudly declares herself the best repairman in the royal capital, even the entire world. Lond doubts if she can truly restore the feelings in the scripture that way. Eliza explains the scripture has been passed down among the elves for hundreds of years. It contains the teachings of Saint Lugnica, whom their ancestors once believed in, as well as their culture, history, and past ways of thinking. She stresses the book is a precious article that must be preserved for the future. Lond admits that without understanding the ancient Elvish alphabet, restoring the scripture to its original state will be difficult, especially dealing with the pages inside. Laughing confidently, the repairman declares it simple. If he restores the scripture to its original form, the problem should be solved. Eliza listens silently, her expression serious. He scoffs at the idea of feelings. Insisting human emotions can't be repaired, he insists that as a repairman, understanding the meaning behind words doesn't matter. Only restoring their shape does. Clenching his fist, he reminds himself this is a royal request. If he completes this job, he'll truly be the best repairman in the nation. Determined, he crushes the damaged scripture in his hand, but the pages begin to tear further. Shock floods his face as the damage worsens. The scripture falls apart, spilling ink and fragments. Eliza gasps, calling out to him. He quickly reassures her, claiming he can fix the torn pages and that he's the best repairman in the royal capital. He reaches out to steady her, though the damage seems severe. The scripture continues to disintegrate, smoke rising from the damaged pages. Both he and Eliza stare in disbelief and horror, sweat dripping down their faces as the precious book crumbles beyond repair. He stammers in disbelief, unable to accept the destruction before him. She weeps, overwhelmed by the loss of their precious history, the only one of its kind in the world. He admits it's too late to fix anything now, confessing he once believed in her. Tears stream down her face as she demands what he has done. He kneels beside her, devastated, realizing too late the true importance of what was lost. His expression hardens with regret as he calls himself a fool. The gears have spun out of control. He admits he failed to realize the importance of the scripture until it was too late. Calling himself a fool, determined, he vows to do something about it, refusing to let it end on such a sad note. Clutching the damaged book, he silently promises his grandfather to take responsibility for restoring it. Eliza explains to Till-Lo that the book contains magic that brings happiness to many people. She recalls how the tree once bloomed peach-colored flowers using the magic written in the scripture, though its power has weakened with age. She tells Till-Lo that within the royal capital, there is a famous repairman who can restore any object to its original state. She hopes he will repair the scripture and bring the tree back to bloom, calming hearts and ending the feud between humans and demi-humans. Till-Lo listens intently, moved by her words. Flashbacks show the tree and a group of people gathered around it. Then Till-Lo apologizing repeatedly, overwhelmed with guilt. He stands alone outside, confessing that the destruction is all his fault. Tears stream down Eliza's face as she repeatedly apologizes. Clutching the damaged scripture, Till-Lo's eyes widen in shock, startled by her sudden outburst. He sits at a table, caught off guard by the intensity of her sorrow. Eliza's voice trembles as she speaks of humans aging and dying quickly, forsaking their past sins. From across the room, Till-Lo listens quietly. She turns to him, asking to borrow his strength. Till-Lo, holding a bag, declares he understands everything, from the scripture to his grandfather's actions. The other man scoffs, calling it unbelievable that Till Lo would rely on his client despite being the repairman's grandchild. Till Lo remains silent, conflicted. The man accuses Till Lo of repeating the same mistakes that happened to Eliza. Till Lo realizes the truth behind the cold demeanor he's sensed since they first met. Till Lo came prepared, knowing all that had happened before. He asks if she came to make his grandfather, Lond, atone for his wrongdoings. She admits that was her intention, explaining that when the kingdom of Elta requested the scripture's restoration, she saw it as her chance for revenge. But that man is already dead. Without atoning for his sins, he left this world. He questions what happened to her after that incident, as the scene shifts to a lone figure by a massive tree. After that day, her life changed for the worse. The unbearable guilt of her duty to repair the scripture crushed her mentally. She felt responsible for everything that happened. The elf walks through a grand hallway, and he reflects that he has never seen her smile again. The woman states that his grandfather ruined a person's life. She clarifies that he robbed hope from the elven people. The scene shows her sitting alone in a quiet room, emphasizing the weight of her words. The man accuses Till Lo, saying his grandfather's regrets caused great suffering for many. He shouts that Till Lo is no different from that man, driven by pride and hubris rather than understanding his client's feelings. He claims Till Lo's attempt to repair the scripture would be utterly foolish. Till Lo reacts with shock and alarm as the accusation hits him. He admits his grandfather committed an unforgivable mistake, expressing deep regret that no apology can undo the harm done to Eliza and the other elf. Bowing his head, he apologizes sincerely, acknowledging the irretrievable time lost. Till Lo listens, stunned and speechless. Despite his grandfather's failure to repair the scripture, he reveals that clues remain in the diary to guide him. He pleads for belief in his resolve, insisting only he can fix the damage. The elf's expression shifts to doubt as he questions what this means. He warns that merely restoring the scripture's appearance isn't enough. One must grasp the true meaning behind every ancient elven character or risk losing them forever. He explains that for the final step, he needs someone who understands these characters. The elf, overwhelmed, quietly asks why he is doing this. The man declares his intent to accomplish what his grandfather could not: to restore the scripture's true meaning and return it to the elves, bringing hope back to their people. Tears stream down the elf's face as he clutches the parcel, moved by the earnest vow to free him from the past. The elf wipes away tears, his voice trembling as he promises to try believing again. The young man responds with a gentle smile, assuring him that he will believe in both him and his grandfather once more. Sometime later, inside a cozy room, a woman asks if the scripture has been handed over yet. The young man explains the challenge of notifying the king but affirms that others also need the book. The woman offers to accompany him to secure favorable conditions and a proper reward. Grateful, he thanks her warmly, acknowledging her great help. A man sharply orders silence, telling a customer to leave if they have complaints about his repairs. The customer angrily retorts that he will seek out a younger repairman known for skill, refusing to accept the older man's work. The older man remains seated, silent, as the door closes behind the departing customer, his name quietly spoken: Mr. Luzian. A woman in a maid outfit questions if it was right to turn the customer away. Noting he was there first in a while, the older man brusquely tells her to shut up and asks if she is trying to lecture him. She then shifts the conversation, asking how his body is feeling, showing concern. The maid explains she senses a malfunction from his right thigh up to his shoulder. The older man, seated at a cluttered desk, acknowledges this quietly. She gently asks if something is wrong, addressing him respectfully as master. The older man dismisses her concern, saying it is nothing and that they are done for the day. He admits he is simply not feeling well as he walks away. The maid watches him leave, her expression softening. The final panel lingers on a table holding a framed, damaged document and a tied leaf, symbolizing unresolved matters. Lond hums cheerfully as he cleans the shop, the quiet morning light spilling in. Suddenly, the door creaks open and he startles, quickly greeting the visitors with a bright welcome. An older man cloaked in a cape and a maid standing beside him step inside, apologizing for their intrusion. The man comments on how shabby the shop looks, far from the magnificent place he expected. He, confused and wary, asks if they came for a request. The older man snaps back sharply, questioning why anyone would come to such a place unless for a request. The maid politely apologizes for barging in and introduces herself as Rena, assistant to Mr. Luzian. The repairman seated on the couch, Lon stammers, surprised to hear the title repairman, and wonders why they are at his shop. Mr. Luzian points to the maid and explains that she is his assistant, Rena, and that he wants to request a repair for her. Lon's eyes widen in shock as he processes the idea of a repair for a girl. The maid and Mr. Luzian sit across from Lon as he contemplates the situation. The older man explains that Lady Rena is an automaton, one unlike any he has ever seen. Intricate and autonomous, he adds that she was handmade by him. Lond falls silent. Then the maid gently reaches out to him, asking if she may take a closer look at Rina. The older man grabs the young repairman by his collar, shouting fiercely not to touch the maid in inappropriate places. The maid looks on silently, her expression calm but attentive. The young man nervously questions the older man about repairing her, but the older man cuts him off harshly, warning that if he fails, he will be broken so badly he will never walk again. The young repairman bows deeply, apologizing sincerely for his master's rude behavior. The maid also bows, asking for forgiveness on behalf of her master. The older man asks if the young repairman is accepting the request. The young man clenches his fist inside his apron and firmly agrees to accept it as the night sky looms outside. The young repairman marvels at the incredible craftsmanship of the automaton, noting how she could easily be mistaken for a human. He wonders if she has artificial nerves like a real body and fears that even a single mistake in repair could cause her to stop working completely. The maid notices his troubled expression and gently asks what's wrong. She confirms that Mr. Lucian was indeed the one who made her and that he performed all the maintenance alone. The automaton explains that her master added new functions to her with each maintenance session. She reveals that thanks to these efforts, she became capable of moving naturally, almost indistinguishable from a real human. The repairman reflects on how Mr. Lucian must be a truly kind person, wondering why he went to such lengths to create her. The automaton humbly states she is nothing more than an assistant to her master. She explains that whenever she reports a malfunction, he desperately tries to fix her, though if she breaks, he could simply make a new one. The repairman kneels before her, realizing that to her, he is Rina, and wonders if that could be the key to understanding her existence. He wonders why Lord Lyle would suddenly ask a stranger like him for help. It's hard to believe, but she has qualities that normal automatons lack. Lord Lyle built such an intricate automaton and has repaired her repeatedly by himself. He calls out to Rina, wanting to ask her something. Suddenly, a loud bang startles them as a man bursts through the door, angrily demanding if anyone has a problem with his repairs and warning them never to return. The young man greets him cautiously, calling him Lucian. The older man looks confused. Lucian, smelling strongly of alcohol, invites the young man to sit anywhere. The young man notes the smell but complies. He asks if Rina can be fixed and why Lucian entrusted her to him. Lucian snaps at him not to answer a question with a question and accuses him of whining. He admits it's strange to him and explains that the young man possesses advanced skills he lacks. In fact, Lucian says the young man used those skills to create Rina and make her as close to human as possible. The young man questions why, despite his advanced skills, he was asked to repair her, insisting creating a human is impossible even with alchemy. The older man snaps that the question is nonsense and suggests he should have just done his job quietly. He points to his failing eyesight, admitting his vision is barely functional now. The older man explains his deteriorating vision might be due to cheap alcohol or age, which prevents him from working properly. He admits there is nothing more he can do for her, trailing off as the young man listens in silence. The young man realizes why the older man came to him for the repair. The older man reveals he is an old man with little time left, who created her out of self-satisfaction so she would never grow old. He confesses his deep worry about leaving her alone from now on and mentions he once had a daughter. The young man asks what self-satisfaction means and why she was created, while the older man calls his story ridiculous. The scene shifts to a warmly lit home where a cheerful young girl named Rina greets the older man, calling him Papa and welcoming him home. He apologizes for not being with her earlier and asks how she is feeling. She beams with gratitude, saying the medicine he gave her has made her full of energy. The man softly calls out to Rina, expressing gratitude for her presence despite not having a mother. She thanks him for working so hard every day and promises to recover quickly so she can make things easier for him. With a hopeful smile, she vows to stay by his side forever, and he quietly thanks her. He bursts through the door, apologizing for being late. He explains that if his current job goes well, he'll receive a large sum of money from a noble soon. This will allow him to buy better medicine for Rina, ensuring her recovery. The scene shifts to Rina lying unconscious in bed, her arm dangling off the side. Her peaceful face contrasts with the tense atmosphere. The man approaches her bedside, calling her name with concern. He offers her favorite stew, warning that he'll eat it all if she doesn't wake soon. Holding her gently, he asks if she can hear him, desperation creeping into his voice. Tears stream down his face as he clings tightly to someone, his voice trembling with desperation. He pleads for a response, begging Rina to answer him. The quiet room is bathed in the cold light of night through the window, emphasizing the emptiness of the bed beside him. He curls into himself on the floor, overwhelmed by the absence, the cloak he discarded lying crumpled nearby, The stillness of the room contrasts sharply with the raw pain he feels. The warmth that once filled this space now, completely gone. The young man asks if that is why Rina was made. Questioning the older man's story, the older man walks away, telling him to laugh if he wants, calling it ridiculous that a stubborn, domineering man created a doll resembling his daughter just to distract himself from loneliness. The young man struggles to believe Lord Luzian had such a past. The older man admits he has talked too much and prepares to leave. The young man urgently calls out, asking Mr. Luzian to explain. A flashback shows someone angrily shouting at him. But the young man refuses to accept that the doll was made only to distract from loneliness. The young man pledges to take responsibility and repair Rina as quickly as possible. He asks for the design details to fix her sooner. Bowing deeply in earnest, the older man listens silently, surprised by the plea. The older man calls the young man an idiot, accusing him of wanting information on Rina out of desperation. He says he is the only one in the country who can make such a doll and warns that it will take months to fix her. By the time she is repaired, he implies the young man may no longer be around. The young man urgently calls out to Mr. Luzian, insisting that giving up is no option. The older man looks weary but listens as the young man insists that neither he nor Rina will be lost. The older man, touched, admits he realized this when he saw how much the young man cares for both his daughter and Rina. The young man continues, saying to Mr. Luzian that Rina must be his precious daughter. He believes a parent and child should stay together until the very end. Smiling through it all, he warns it will be too late once regret sets in, reminding the older man that since he has lost someone precious, he should understand. The young man, now smiling confidently, says he understands and just needs to hand over the task. Mr. Luzian scoffs, surprised that the young man is not just a child but even more capable than expected. The scene shifts to the young man working diligently with Rina, who sits patiently. He assures her there are no problems, crediting the blueprints rather than himself. He praises Lord Lyle as a wonderful repairman, but says the truly amazing one is Mr. Luzian, his father. He reflects that the structure had strong peculiarities, but once he understood the logic, he was able to work without issues. Rina falls silent, lost in thought. Lord Lyle gently asks what is wrong and requests her attention for a moment. She quietly agrees, sitting down as he approaches her with concern. She reflects on her master, describing him as kind but clumsy and rough-tempered, often causing misunderstandings. Despite this, he treats her with great care. She reveals he treats her as a replacement for his daughter, a fact she is painfully aware of. Rina compares her master's desperate attempts to fix her to a parent trying to cure a child's cold. She questions her own worth, wondering if she can truly remain close to his heart as she wishes. She admits she is merely a mechanical doll, unable to truly connect or convey her feelings despite how much she cares. Lord Lyle listens intently as she concludes there is no doubt about her nature as an automated doll, even as she recalls the kindness her master shows. She wonders what to do, lost in thought. He smiles warmly, reassuring her it will be fine. He calls her name, Rina, and urges her to truly convey her feelings. She turns, surprised, hearing Lord Lyle speak to her. Outside, Lord Luzian stumbles along the street. Leaning against a wall, a woman and child nearby ask if he is all right. He chuckles bitterly, admitting he looks like a fool. He reflects on his lifelong clumsiness and stubbornness, always failing despite his efforts. Memories flood back of a woman who loved him despite his flaws, and their precious daughter. Though both are gone, their images remain etched in his mind. He recalls how she was once just a presence to fill his emptiness. Now, she means so much more. He admits aloud that he really is a fool, pondering when this change occurred. The doll who neither laughs nor cries has become dear to him. Despite his rough temper and feeling worthless, she continued to call him master. He admits to being a pathetic man, stubborn and regretful over his past words. He suspects others only want information about her, but he alone can repair her. The fear that she might leave him if someone else fixes her haunts him deeply. Despite his foolish life, he longs just once more to see her, Rina. Hoping she can live healthily from now on, overcome with emotion, he covers his face, struggling with his feelings as the town lies quietly around him. Calling her name, he sees Rina and her companion nearby. Tears well up as he collapses, and Rina rushes to support him. Concern filling her eyes, she asks if he is okay, her worry evident as she steadies him. She gently questions if he is all right, her expression soft and caring, looking up at her. He is met with her tender gaze as she calls him father, bridging the painful distance between them. He gasps softly as tears spill down his face, trembling as he touches his cheeks. Rina watches quietly, cheeks puffed in a small, nervous gesture. His tears continue to fall, and she looks at him with gentle concern, silently waiting. He collapses to his knees, overwhelmed, and she wraps her arms tightly around him, whispering thanks. The two cling to each other, a fragile moment of relief and connection. A young man nearby watches the scene with a soft, understanding expression. Rina sobs quietly into his shoulder, her tears flowing freely as she holds him close. He responds with a quiet, affirmative whisper, sharing in the emotional release. Their embrace tightens, a mutual comfort in their shared pain. Inside a warmly lit room, a woman carrying a tray of tea asks a man named Lyle if he can finally explain. He responds calmly, curious about her question. She explains that their previous employee is closing up, and they were highly recommended someone new. The man nods, accepting the situation as unavoidable. He recalls how she aggressively pressed him about hiring an employee yesterday, asking about their work history, skills, and if they can brew tea well. He admits he told her the person isn't bad and notes she's been here all morning. The woman, standing confidently, questions if he means a woman. He reacts to her snapping back at him, wondering why she's in a bad mood. She quietly says she doesn't know either, but believes they will become good friends soon. She then excuses herself and leaves the room. The woman introduces herself as Rina, announcing she will be helping Lord Lyle from today and looks forward to working with him. In the middle layer of a dungeon, a young swordswoman grips her blade tightly, sweat forming as she faces a lizard-like enemy emerging from the shadows. She narrows her eyes, preparing to strike, then lunges forward with a fierce battle cry, slashing decisively. Suddenly, she stumbles, alarmed by a sudden movement behind her. A figure with long hair and a cloak appears, warning her not to let her guard down. The swordswoman's eyes widen in shock as the warning sinks in. She calls out gratefully to the cloaked figure, Mr. Lind, who walks deeper into the cavern. She hesitates, then asks if he is really there, her voice filled with hope. Mr. Lind turns slightly, his long hair flowing, and asks if she is hurt or feeling less energetic than usual. She reassures him with a smile, explaining she has been summoned to the ducal house later and that Lady Asha is likely to give her another impossible request. A woman smiles gently, remarking on how troublesome something is. The scene shifts to a peaceful town under a clear sky, setting a calm atmosphere. The woman speaks earnestly, relaying Mr. Lin's words that Lady Asha still has a long way to go and is still developing, so there's no need to worry. A young man questions if this bluntness is insensitive, but then wonders if it's a good thing they can interact like family. The woman ponders the meaning of family and wonders if Lord Lyle's parents live in the royal capital. The young man says he doesn't think so but expresses a desire to properly greet them sometime. He mentions hearing stories about Lord Lyle's grandfather. The woman and man prepare to greet someone entering. A young woman greets them with a surprised hello, noting it's rare for the visitor to come alone without Mr. Lind. The visitor nervously responds, asking if something happened, while the others look on with concern. Lady Asha wonders aloud if something is wrong with Mr. Lind, noting he seemed fine just yesterday. She reflects that he now appears preoccupied, lacking energy, or as if his mind is elsewhere. Concerned, she explains she asked others who have known Mr. Lind for a long time. They suggested his condition might be due to someone named Siesta. Both Lady Asha and the young man question who Siesta is, prompting her to begin explaining. She reveals that Siesta is apparently Mr. Lind's fiancé, surprising both of them. They express disbelief that Lady Asha never knew this, despite knowing Mr. Lind for a long time. The visitor admits even she was unaware and wonders if something happened to Siesta, noting everyone seemed gloomy and refused to share more. The young man acknowledges this makes the situation even more concerning. The young man confesses his worry about Mr. Lind's current state, admitting he feels presumptuous speaking up but can't ignore it. He explains Mr. Lind took him in as an orphan and raised him into an adventurer, so he owes him deeply. Looking determined, he offers to help Mr. Lind in any way he can. The young man, named Tenya, is addressed by a concerned voice. Lady Asha and another man express their shared debt to Mr. Lind and insist they cannot ignore the situation either. They ask Tenya to leave the matter to them for now, showing a united front of friends ready to support Mr. Lind. The scene shifts to a quiet townscape as they speak. The two walk through a district filled with large houses, the man commenting on the grandeur around them. Lady Asha reflects on her long acquaintance with Mr. Lind, hinting she has heard things about him before. She questions the man, named Lyle, about his thoughts on the matter. Lady Asha recalls how Mr. Lind's party rose quickly to the top rank, becoming close to their group through escort requests. Even while her mother was alive, she looks up to Mr. Lind like an older brother and admits she did not notice anything troubling him. Even when she met him the day before, her expression darkens as she mentions the matter of his fiancé, leaving an unspoken concern lingering. A young man assures Lady Asha that Mr. Lind acted carefully to avoid making her worry, showing his care for her. The scene shifts to a grand building under a clear sky. Lady Asha and the man are greeted warmly by an older woman, who calls Lady Asha Auntie, and exchanges polite pleasantries with them. The older woman apologizes for the poor timing, explaining Mr. Lind is currently out and she is about to step out as well. She invites Lady Asha and her companion inside to wait. The man hears the name Siesta, and looks surprised as the older woman confirms it. Inside a well-furnished room, a woman in a wheelchair apologizes for not greeting them personally. She introduces herself as Siesta Brunal and mentions she is being cared for there. The young man looks at her with a mix of surprise and curiosity, beginning to speak. Siesta apologizes for startling them and explains she has been in her current condition for 5 years, asking them not to mind it. She smiles gently, showing acceptance and calm despite her situation. The woman reveals she has heard much about the young lady and the skilled repairer from Mr. Lind. She notes the young lady has served him for many years and asks if there was a particular reason for their visit today. The repairer modestly credits Mr. Lind for enabling him to work, but the woman urges him not to be so modest. She adds that she recently heard Mr. Lind has been acting strangely. Lady Asha explains she came on impulse, wanting to help as a friend, despite not arranging anything beforehand. The woman reflects that even after many years together, she hadn't noticed anything had changed with Mr. Lind. She admits she now understands it is probably because of her. She asks if it is because of her siesta. She recalls originally being in the same party as Mr. Lind, admiring him as he began making a name as an adventurer. That admiration led her to join his party. At first they were rivals and clashed often, but those feelings soon turned into admiration, and then something more. Siesta bursts in energetically, calling out to Mr. Lind with excitement about becoming the SSS-Rank party of their dreams if they clear tomorrow's quest. She credits Mr. Lind for their long journey to this point. Mr. Lind smiles warmly. While Siesta blushes shyly, the woman calls out to get their attention, breaking the moment. A young man teasingly tells the woman she's showing off again and should just get married already. The woman, arms crossed, responds with a deadpan warning to knock it off. Nearby, a small figure cheers loudly. Meanwhile, Mr. Lind calmly sips from a cup, asking to be spared the lovey-dovey act during the quest. He snaps back at the teasing, denying any such thing would happen. Outside under a starry sky, the woman apologizes for calling Mr. Lind out so late. He replies simply with no. She smiles warmly, reminding him it's been 2 years since they met. She asks what he wanted to talk about, guessing it might be about tomorrow's strategy. He admits he's grown tremendously as both adventurer and person, and believes it's because he met her. Mr. Lind confesses he's suddenly changed and apologizes for being a coward. He admits that when he stands before the woman he loves, he becomes unbelievably indecisive. She asks what he means by that. He admits he's probably afraid of losing her. She listens intently, concern and surprise crossing her face. Kneeling before her, he pledges to stay by her side forever and cherish her even more than before. He asks her to let him protect her from now on until his life comes to an end. He gently slips a ring onto her finger, sealing his heartfelt vow. He kneels, holding her hand gently, asking for her answer. She hesitates, clutching her chest tightly, then softly replies with a trembling yes. Tears stream down her face as she joyfully affirms, "Of course!" Suddenly, a voice calls out, warning her not to go too far ahead. Determined, she grips her weapon and runs forward, thinking about becoming Mr. Lind's fiancé and the importance of clearing the quest to make him happy. Suddenly, a shout warns her to look out. A massive clawed attack slashes down toward her, and she gasps in shock as the scene cuts to an empty room, the danger looming unseen. Siesta slowly wakes, realizing she was attacked by a monster in the dungeon. She struggles to move her left hand, finding it weak and useless. Relief floods the room as someone calls out, grateful she's awake, but she can barely believe it herself. Panic overtakes her as she frantically questions what happened to her legs, arms, and hands, demanding to know why they're gone. Another voice urges her to calm down, but her tears fall as she faces the terrifying reality. Her gaze darts around the room, haunted by the loss. Overwhelmed, she covers her face and breaks down in tears while the long-haired figure embraces her gently. The room is quiet except for the shattered remnants of a broken ring on the floor, symbolizing a nightmare that refuses to end. The weight of Lind and Siesta's painful past leaves him speechless. As he walks alongside a woman, a long-haired knight approaches and quietly asks, "You two are?" The knight explains he heard from Tenna that Lind hasn't been doing well lately and came without an appointment. He apologizes for prying about the two, But Lind insists he is the one who should apologize, admitting he didn't want to worry anyone. The knight notices the shattered ring on the ground and asks if it is the ring he gave to Siesta. Lind admits he still hasn't made up his mind, calling himself pathetic for failing to protect her back then. Alone in a dimly lit room, Lind reflects on his indecision and constant worry about what he can do for Siesta, confessing he has only kept her by his side in this ambiguous state, unable to reach a decision. Doubt gnaws at him as he questions if it's right to ask her to marry him again. Feeling unworthy with her birthday approaching, the armored figure challenges him, insisting this self-doubt isn't like him and accusing him of acting out of selfishness rather than what's best for Siesta. The weight of the question presses down. Is it truly for Siesta's sake or just his ego? As an outsider, the man admits his words may seem rude but urges Lind to look beyond atonement and responsibility. He asks what Lind most wants to convey to Siesta, pressing him to confront his true feelings. The armored figure reflects on men's indecisiveness in moments like this. Then Lady Asha steps forward, reminding Lind that they are his friends. She stresses that this is exactly when he should seek their counsel, emphasizing their support. Lady Asha smiles warmly, assuring Lind that he is not alone. She points out that the greatest repairman, the one who can truly fix things, is right here with them, offering hope and encouragement. The older man acknowledges the request for a prosthetic arm and leg, asking if the parts can be moved freely. The young man explains he wants to learn how to make prosthetics, not just repair a ring. The focus shifts to the importance of the lost legs. Siesta's body, which she lost. The older man interrupts, reminding him the shop is closed, but the young man apologizes sincerely. The older man asks if the young man wants to save the young lady, and he confirms. He admits the problem isn't just the physical injury but also the tricky part of her own feelings. The older man reflects that humans often can't express their true wishes honestly, something he has painfully experienced. He warns that kind people suffer the most and urges the young man to untangle those feelings first. The young man listens intently. The young man repeats the phrase "untangle the suffering" quietly to himself. He worries about Lucian's words but knows he has no reason to refuse. He plans to inform them that the prosthetics are ready and admits he spoke strongly before. Yet the problem lies deep in their hearts. Even if the physical form is fixed, their hearts may not return to how they were. The young man wonders what he can do for the two of them. Lady Asha quietly calls his name, Lyle. She explains that because he fixed her dress, she was able to become her mother's daughter and honestly express her feelings. This connection allows her to live in the present and look forward without regrets. She believes it was the same for him. Standing together in a bright room, Lady Asha urges him to have confidence, assuring that they can definitely do this. She warns him not to try solving it alone, claiming she understands a woman's heart better than he does. She excitedly suggests they head to Mr. Lind's house quickly, and he agrees. At the gate of a large estate, Lyle notes that Mr. Lind said he'd be home today, but something seems off. Suddenly, a shout calls out Siesta's name. Both Lyle and Lady Asha are startled and ask why this is happening all of a sudden. Inside the room, a woman yells she has had enough and demands to be left alone. The man with long hair insists he can't leave her alone, but she tells him to stop and that she has nothing more to say. Both Lyle and Lady Asha are shocked by the confrontation. The man calls out to Lady Asha, asking what happened to both of them, while she pleads for calm. Siesta breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by emotion. Both Lord Lyle and Lady Asha watch her with concern. He explains that he spoke with Siesta about repairing the ring, but she suddenly said she was leaving. Lady Asha gently asks Lord Lyle to take Mr. Lind outside, insisting he handle the situation from here. Lyle is surprised but complies, while Asha remains firm and composed. Siesta apologizes for showing such a vulnerable side, insisting she is already fine. She admits that if she stays with Mr. Lind, she will only make him unhappy. She reveals her body can no longer have children. She confesses she was happy with Mr. Lind, cherishing every moment they spent together as lovers and in the party. She loves him deeply, but cannot bear to burden him with her condition any longer. A hand rests gently as the room's quiet tension lingers. Two women embrace tightly on a couch, one whispering, "That's exactly why in a fragile confession. The embrace tightens as the other woman insists. "You are mistaken." She challenges the first, asking if her decision was truly for Mr. Lind's sake or if she herself truly wants it, leaving the first woman trembling and unable to answer. Tears stream down the first woman's face as she cries out, "If Lind isn't happy, then I can't be happy." Her anguish is raw and overwhelming, while the other woman looks on with a calm, understanding smile. The first woman, still shaken, listens as the other kneels before her, holding her hands and recounting a memory. Before her mother passed, she asked if her father was happy being married to someone as sickly as her. The answer was, "Just being able to walk through life with you is enough to fulfill me and makes the world look bright." The room fills with quiet warmth and acceptance. Tears stream down Siesta's face as she recalls, "Even if hardships come our way, there is nothing we can't overcome as long as we're together." Lady Asha gently urges her to be honest with her own feelings. The door creaks open quietly as Lady Asha smiles warmly. Lady Asha confesses her greatest happiness is simple: to be with Siesta. She apologizes sincerely for keeping her waiting and pampering herself with Siesta's kindness. Siesta, holding Lady Asha's hand, begins to respond, her heart heavy but hopeful. Siesta continues, her voice steady as she promises, "For the rest of my life." While they hold hands tightly, their bond unbroken. Lady Asha asks quietly, "Will you live it with me?" Their hands clasp firmly in agreement. Siesta answers with a soft, resolute, "Yes." A voice answers with certainty, "Of course." Lady Asha clutches her chest nervously, admitting she's the one getting anxious. Lal notices her tension and asks why she's stiff, reminding her today is a special day. Lady Asha turns away, while Lal gently points out she hasn't slept well these past few days. Lal admits he was caught and it's obvious he's been exhausted, warning that ruining his health would make all efforts pointless. He thanks Asha sincerely for her support, saying he couldn't have fulfilled the request without her. As petals fall, the mood lightens with applause and excitement builds. Siesta announces, "It's almost time." Lady Asha looks surprised. The narration reflects on the hardships ahead but insists they are not insurmountable. Even if painful, they must keep moving forward. A group of friends, including Lady Asha, Lyle, and Siesta, stand together, surrounded by falling petals, united and hopeful. The narration concludes that strength lies in unity, especially if Siesta and Lyle stay together. Mr. Lind appears, extending his hand warmly towards Siesta, inviting her to move forward with him. A radiant woman dressed in a wedding gown smiles warmly, her face glowing with happiness as she holds a bouquet of flowers. She reaches out her hand gently, calling out, "Yes, Lind." Petals drift softly around her as she invites him to move forward with hope in his heart toward the future. A young man greets visitors warmly, apologizing for being overwhelmed with requests and asking if a little wait is acceptable. He assures them the shop has the best craftsmanship in the royal capital. A woman with a bow in her hair smiles gently, telling Lyle to return to work while she manages the shop. The young man thanks Rena for her help, noting how much it aids him. He reflects that a month has passed since Lind and Siesta's wedding, and their customer base has grown significantly, despite progress. He admits they are only halfway to their goal and must push harder. Suddenly, a man named Korn bursts in, demanding to speak with Lyle. The young man turns in surprise, responding cautiously. Korn insists urgently that he wants something from Lyle, his presence commanding immediate attention. Korn declares with fierce determination that he wants to become Lyle's apprentice. The young man stares back in shock, caught completely off guard by the bold request. The young man sits tensely, a cup of tea set down nearby. He repeats the word apprentice in disbelief, then asks Korn why he wants to become his apprentice. Korn leans forward, insisting there's something he absolutely must fix. The young man offers to repair it for him. Korn immediately rejects the offer, declaring that it won't work. He pleads that the meaning is lost unless he fixes it himself, begging to be made the apprentice. The room's quiet tension deepens as he waits for a response. The young man clenches his fists, then meets Korn's gaze with resolve. He agrees, though uncertain how much help Korn can be, and asks if he will start helping with the work today. Lady Asha peeks through a doorway, asking if this is the person everyone is talking about. The young man advises her to try getting along with Korn, though he warns that Korn is intense and single-minded. Despite lacking special skill, Korn has been working non-stop since day one and should soon master the basics. Lady Asha questions if taking on an apprentice was truly what Lord Lyle wanted. He admits it wasn't his initial desire but felt a connection to Korn and, above all, respects his seriousness. They stand quietly together by the door, acknowledging Korn's earnestness. Lord Lyle sits at a table, determined, expressing his wish to believe in Korn's potential. Lady Asha gently suggests they take a break and have some tea together. Addressing him by name, he remains silent, surprised by her kindness. Lady Asha calls out to Korn, trying to get his attention, but he responds curtly that she's annoying. She stands firm, undeterred by his bluntness. Korn's irritation is clear as he turns away. Korn snaps at Lady Asha, telling her not to bother him repeatedly and that she's interfering with his practice. She is taken aback but remains composed as she quietly leaves the room, leaving Korn alone with his frustration. Lady Asha's frustration bursts out as she declares Korn's manners unacceptable. He reflects quietly, relieved he managed to calm her down for now, but a growing worry about the future lingers. From above, Lord Lyle calls out to Korn, his concern evident. Lord Lyle suggests they stop for the day since it's late, but he urges Korn to try getting along with everyone, emphasizing that repair work requires more than just technical skill. It demands listening to clients and those around him. Korn questions if that will truly help him improve. Korn wonders aloud if getting along with everyone will actually enhance his repair skills. He insists he only wants to improve quickly and doesn't need anything unrelated. As he prepares to leave in a hurry, someone calls after him, asking why he's rushing. He stands before an empty lot, shocked to find no house where he expected one. He realizes the address he was given was false information. Despite being entrusted with looking after the place, with a heavy sigh, he resolves to find the house before asking about the owner's situation. 3 hours later, exhaustion weighs heavily as he considers talking to Korn directly tomorrow. Suddenly, a desperate voice demands silence and pleads to be heard. Peeking through bushes, he recognizes Korn and a woman inside, who must be Korn's mother. She urges him to stop, but he begs for just a little more time. The woman insists she never wants to see that man again, her pain clear as she orders him to go home. The young man protests, but she remains firm, haunted by memories triggered just by his face. The young man clenches his fist, overwhelmed with emotion, whispering "Mom." He feels guilty for intruding on Korn's private matters but knows he can't walk away now. Suddenly, Korn bolts away, frustrated and desperate. Arriving at a modest house, he knocks and is greeted by an older man who asks if he's Korn's friend. The young man nervously denies it, but the man demands to know why he's there. Korn demands to know since when the young man has been following him, angrily ordering him to leave immediately. An older man intervenes, scolding Korn for speaking so harshly to a guest, but Korn firmly tells him to stay out of it. The young man bows and apologizes for the sudden visit, introducing himself as Lyle disguised. He explains he works as a repairman and has been teaching Korn repair work recently. The older man listens carefully and then reveals his name is Alphonse and that he is Korn's father. Alphonse reflects on what Korn has been doing lately. Understanding the situation, Korn admits to being stubborn and difficult once he decides on something. Alphonse apologizes sincerely for any trouble Korn has caused. Alphonse laughs, saying there's no need to hold back since he is still Korn's father. Korn remains silent, and Alphonse suggests they talk more comfortably at a nearby park, noting that standing like this isn't ideal and inviting Korn to join him. Alphonse admits his divorce from his ex-wife Aine is an embarrassing story caused by his drinking and violence. He confesses that after losing his job due to a major mistake, he drowned himself in alcohol and lived carelessly. He firmly states that Korn had nothing to do with their divorce and insists on making that clear. He reflects bitterly that Korn suffered because he was a foolish father, forced to witness his parents fighting almost daily as a child. Despite deep regret, he feels it's never enough. Korn wonders how this relates to his own situation, prompting Alphonse to begin explaining his assumption. Alphonse believes Korn thinks the cause of his divorce with Aine lies with himself, revealing a shattered family bond between father and son. Alphonse tells Korn that he believes Korn thinks he caused his parents' divorce. Korn, confused, asks for clarification. Alphonse explains that although he now looks worn, he once worked at the royal castle and endured many hardships as a commoner. He recalls having something precious to protect, working earnestly and recklessly, steadily climbing the promotion ladder, yet, he suspects some resented a non-noble like him rising in rank. A small mistake led to his rapid downfall, being driven out of his workplace. This marked the beginning of everything falling apart. Alphonse is shown drinking heavily as the situation worsens. Alphonse angrily shouts to be left alone, breaking a bottle in frustration. A woman pleads with him to talk, reminding him they are family. Korn watches silently from a doorway, feeling the weight of the moment. A boy notices a box and curiously opens it, revealing a gleaming pocket watch. He marvels at its beauty, but as he stands on a chair to get a better look, he suddenly loses his balance. The watch slips from his hands and crashes to the floor, shattering its cover. A man appears, his face shadowed, and sternly calls out the boy's name, demanding to know what he is doing. The boy nervously apologizes. The man grabs the boy roughly, shouting in anger, causing the boy to cry out in fear. A woman rushes in, alarmed by the commotion. The broken watch lies on the floor, its cover and chain scattered. Later, the man sits quietly on a bench with the boy beside him, explaining that the silver watch is a memento from his late wife. He recalls giving it to her when they got engaged, embarrassed by his cheesy words at the time. He clutches his chest, admitting he was a fool, while a tender memory of their engagement plays out in his mind. A man sits on a bench, head bowed in regret, while a younger man in an apron sits beside him. The older man laments not relying on his family and wonders why he acted as he did. His thoughts turn to a broken silver pocket watch, realizing it must be what Korn wants to fix. The younger man remains silent, while Korn insists he must repair it himself, believing he caused the rift between them and wants to mend it with his own hands. Korn's determination becomes clear. He stubbornly seeks repair skills because he wants to restore his family's bond. The scene shifts to a memory of a tense confrontation between a young man and an elderly woman in a kitchen, ending with the young man standing alone, deep in thought. The younger man sits alone by a gravestone, clearly troubled. Another figure calls out to him, noticing his pale appearance and asking what's wrong. The younger man quickly reassures he is fine. They sit together on a bench under a street lamp, and the younger man asks the other to tell him one thing, seeking clarity about the situation. Inside a quiet room, the younger man wakes and notices someone standing in the doorway. The visitor explains they asked the younger man's father for a favor and wanted to speak alone. The younger man, still seated, listens carefully as the visitor asks if it's okay to talk next to him, signaling a serious conversation about to unfold. The visitor tells Korn to do whatever he wants and thanks him. Sitting quietly on the floor, Korn listens as the visitor reveals he has heard about Korn's parents. Korn quietly acknowledges this, admitting he knows he isn't the direct cause of their divorce. He reflects that the reason his parents fought and divorced wasn't only because he broke something important. Korn continues, knowing that even before that incident, his parents' relationship had been deteriorating. Despite understanding this, the pain remains sharp and unbearable. He admits it hurts deeply, no matter the circumstances, because of what happened. He confesses that all he ever wanted was for his family to stay together. The weight of his family's falling apart presses heavily on him, causing unbearable pain. The visitor gently reminds Korn that time never goes back. No matter how much one wishes, time moves forward and what has already happened cannot be changed. Unless one is a god, no one can alter the past. As the visitor leaves, he invites Korn to come by the shop again sometime, leaving Korn to absorb the harsh truth alone. A woman remarks that Korn's reaction was unlike him. Expecting more comforting words from someone as kind as him, Korn remains silent, and she explains she doesn't think one should always give people the words they expect to hear. He asks what she means. Korn admits a repairman can only repair, nothing more. The woman asks if he means the heart issue mentioned earlier, and he confirms. She explains that sometimes repair can connect memories, but Korn's case is different. He must take a step forward and accept whatever result comes. She acknowledges that moving forward will surely come with pain, and she doesn't know the right answer herself. She believes there will be suffering to match, but if Korn faces forward, that's what he needs. Korn is startled when she calls to him. Korn struggles with what to do if the past can't be undone. He resolves that he must move forward despite painful memories, accepting that the facts cannot be changed. Even so, he refuses to give up as he steps forward determinedly. Korn clenches his fist, demanding to be taught how to change what comes next. His resolve burns as he asks to learn how to move forward. A calm voice agrees, telling him to take the next step. The struggle is all anyone can do. Relentlessly living in the present, Korn works diligently, sweat on his brow, repairing with sincerity. He faces each challenge head-on, believing this effort will surely lead to change. Time passes as the ticking of a pocket watch marks the moments. Change tomorrow, even if only a little, is the only way forward. Korn collapses from exhaustion, but a supportive figure watches over him quietly. At dusk, a man wonders what Korn wanted by calling him out suddenly. A woman approaches him gently, asking if they can talk. Noting standing out like this isn't ideal, the man recognizes her as Ain, surprised by her presence. A woman asks quietly if Korn is doing well. A man confirms he is doing well, having found his purpose and training as a repairman. The woman smiles softly, saying that's really good. The man apologizes sincerely for what happened before, his expression heavy with regret. He admits he didn't listen properly and ran off without considering her or Korn. Even though he knew she was suffering at work, he confesses bottling up his feelings and saying terrible things to spare her guilt. She interrupts, blushing and sweating, confessing she didn't think about Korn either and pushed all responsibility onto him. He shouts that he should have carried that burden himself. She tearfully insists she knows he is truly kind and understands why he tries to bear everything alone. The young Korn stands silently, realizing his parents were both hurting all along. The man and woman react with surprise at his words. Korn apologizes for making them wait so long, saying he tried his best. He acknowledges that things won't return to how they were but still wanted them to move forward. Even if only a little, he reflects that this is something he learned from his master, though it remains difficult. Tears stream down his cheeks as he softly declares he just wants the two of them to be happy from now on, holding out a shining pocket watch as a symbol of his heartfelt wish. The pocket watch clicks open, and both the man and woman are overwhelmed with emotion. Calling out Korn's name in disbelief and awe, they embrace the boy tightly, their relief and love pouring out in this moment of reunion. From above, the three remain locked in a warm embrace under the night sky. The scene shifts to a quiet room, and then to a clear night with a bright moon. Korn looks up, smiling gently as he remarks on what a beautiful moon it is, signaling a hopeful new beginning beyond their hardships. Ain scolds him seriously for letting things get out of hand every day. While a young boy sleeps at the table, she recalls hearing from Lady Fran that there might be another request coming soon. The boy listens intently, realizing the importance of the news. She confirms the request is from His Majesty the King. The boy reacts nervously, recalling the last request involved a sacred text and wondering if this time it might be the restoration of a historical artifact. He opens the door to welcome someone. Lady Asha appears at the door, greeted respectfully by the man and woman. They introduce Ain as Lady Fran's personal maid to Lord Lyle. Lady Asha bows politely, acknowledging it has been a while since they last met. She apologizes for disturbing them as they were closing, then presents a letter of request entrusted to her by His Majesty the King. Lord Lyle listens attentively, accepting the letter with a serious expression. The king apologizes for the sudden summons to Lyle Disguise, who humbly replies that the honor is his. The king requests a small errand from Repairman Lyle, prompting a curious response. The king explains the letter is addressed to a lord in the frontierlands and that he had kept it for a long time until now. Lyle had assumed it was just a repair request or a sealed letter to deliver, but the king offers to let him see it. Lyle examines the faded letter, noting it looks like a letter but the contents are too faded to read. The king reveals the letter is very old and asks Lyle to restore the damaged parts and deliver it to the lord. He acknowledges the request is demanding and asks if Lyle will accept it. He solemnly agrees to restore and deliver the letter. He bows deeply, pledging to be in the king's care from now on for a while. A confident knight assures Lyle Kuin that he will personally escort him safely to Gardes, easing his nerves about the long journey. Lyle admits this is his first travel request and feels anxious, especially since the frontier is a week away from the capital. Lyle protests traveling alone to the frontier, but a determined young woman insists he bring a dagger for self-defense and suggests asking Lind and others to escort him. Reluctantly, Lyle agrees, and the woman introduces Jack, their energetic warrior, who promises to handle any bandits. Then, a calm woman steps forward, introducing herself as Rico, the mage. She greets Lyle politely, who reacts with surprise and curiosity as she quietly acknowledges him with a subtle smile. The knight apologizes to Lyle for any misunderstandings about Rico, explaining she is a very good girl despite appearances. He then announces that by the king's order, they will now depart for Gardes, shown with a sweeping view of the city and distant mountains. The journey to Gardes took just over a week one way, passing through forests filled with monsters but without any major trouble. The group finally reached their destination far from the royal capital, continuing their trek along a stone bridge toward the city walls. They arrived at Gardes, approaching the massive city gate guarded by soldiers. A guard questions the envoys from the royal capital, but after a brief exchange, he allows them to pass without issue. The main character wonders about the guard's reaction. Inside the city, the main character marvels at the incredible architecture, noting the unique buildings and designs that feel perfectly balanced as if meticulously calculated. He admits it's his first time here and thinks it will make a wonderful story to tell Siesta. Nearby, two women whisper quietly, drawing his attention. The main character senses unease, questioning if they are not exactly welcome in Gardes. He recalls the gatekeeper's similar attitude and wonders if it's rare to receive envoys from the royal capital. Despite the city's active trade and bustling population, the feeling is more like being treated as something troublesome, leaving him concerned and uncertain. The conversation begins with a question about how much the king revealed regarding the request. The envoy explains the king wanted him to restore a letter and deliver it to the frontier lord, though he can barely read the contents, only recognizing it's addressed to a close relative. The lord they must meet is revealed to be the king's younger brother, surprising the envoy. The woman explains that before the king ascended the throne, a succession dispute arose between two half-brothers. Factions formed over who should inherit the throne, and after losing, the lord was driven out of the royal capital. The envoy realizes this explains the king's heavy demeanor. The group agrees that despite the circumstances, they must carry out the request properly. The envoy notices Rico's sudden distraction and asks if something is wrong. She quickly dismisses it, saying she was just looking at the city's scenery. The envoy acknowledges her response, and the tall man suggests they first pay their respects to the Lord. The scene shifts to a peaceful mountain landscape as they prepare to proceed. Jack struggles with their sudden rejection. Surprised they were stopped right at the gate, the group sits in a room, troubled that they weren't even allowed an audience with the Lord. They admit ignorance of the full details of the succession dispute but acknowledge the clear refusal. The narration confirms they were driven away by the Lord's retainers. At the gate, 2 guards explain that Lord Noah is unable to meet anyone due to a deep emotional wound. The envoy insists they came as messengers from the king, but the guards firmly ask them to return home. The group behind the envoy reacts with concern and disappointment. Inside, the group debates the reason for the refusal, wondering why the retainers acted so coldly and why they weren't given any explanation. They consider that the letter's contents might hold a clue but agree they must first address their current predicament. The woman suggests not disturbing Lal Kuan's work and advises everyone to rest, ending their discussion for the day. Alone, the envoy sits at a desk, staring at the sealed letter. Suddenly, a shadowed figure asks if he is the envoy from the king, catching him off guard. A young boy steps into the room, greeting warmly and introducing himself as Armin, the son of Lord Noah and the lord of the city. The man in the room reacts with surprise, admitting he never knew Lord Noah had a son or why the son is suddenly visiting. Armin laughs lightly and confirms he came to deliver a letter to his father. The man hesitates, saying it will be difficult to meet Lord Noah. Armin questions why it is so hard to meet his father. The man explains that Lord Noah has long been crushed by loneliness and loss, cast away to this remote frontier called Gardes, where he has no relatives. Armin reflects on how his father met his mother here, the woman who became the love of his life. Yet, the happiness his father found with her did not last very long, as the sound of a crying baby echoes in the background. The cries of a baby pierce the air as a newborn, swaddled and bloodied, wails relentlessly. A doctor kneels beside a woman lying in bed, delivering the heartbreaking news. The son is safe, but the wife has not survived despite their efforts. The father, overwhelmed with grief, covers his face in tears, questioning why everything precious keeps slipping away from him. The young man reflects somberly that the true pain in Lord Noah's heart isn't just losing the succession dispute. The real wound runs much deeper, far beyond that initial blow. Even now, Lord Noah clings to the belief that he is utterly alone. The question turns inward. What about Armin himself? He looks uncertain, sitting on the edge of a bed, grappling with this weight. The boy is told firmly that Lord Noah has him now. The visitor acknowledges Armin's concern for Lord Noah and insists that as long as Armin is present, there is hope. Suddenly, Armin remembers something urgent and springs up, leaving the room in a hurry, leaving the other boy surprised and calling after him. The other boy calls out to Armin, but he is already heading out the door. He wonders aloud why, with Armin here, Lord Noah still feels so alone. Armin turns back briefly, admitting quietly that he feels no good, then steps out into the night, leaving the question hanging in the air. The boy calls out in surprise, recognizing Rico as she appears silently in the hallway. She holds a folded letter, and he realizes it must be what the boy from earlier dropped. His eyes widen as he carefully unfolds the worn paper, trying to make out the faint writing. The letter feels important, but its contents remain unclear as he studies it intently. A woman holding a worn letter notes that the boy from earlier must have dropped it. She questions if Armin is the sender. Observing the letter is badly worn with faded addressee and sender, possibly stained by water, the letter is addressed from Armin to his father. The boy sits alone, troubled, admitting he still doesn't understand much about Lord Noah or Armin's letter. He wonders if Armin is truly the Lord's son. Feeling something mysterious about him, 2 letters lie on the desk, and he questions what he is supposed to do with them. Both His Majesty and Armin share the same wish, to convey something to Lord Noah, who has shut himself away. The boy resolves to restore both letters. He prepares his tools and begins carefully restoring the fragile papers, focused on the task at hand. As he waits for the ink to dry, he reflects on the letter's contents, questioning if he can trust what it says. Alone in the quiet room, he calls out Armin's name, uncertainty lingering in the air. Guards firmly refuse to let the king's envoy meet Lord Noah, insisting the Lord must not be disturbed. The boy apologizes but pleads to at least deliver what the king entrusted to him. Reluctantly, the guards agree, not wanting to burden the Lord further. The boy clutches the letters, determined to find a way to reach Lord Noah. A figure hidden in the bushes beckons him, offering a secret path. Surprised, the boy calls out to Armin, who leads him through a rough animal trail. Armin explains it's a secret shortcut only he knows. The boy falls silent, absorbing the situation as they push through thick undergrowth. Armin urges him onward, revealing the path leads to the mansion's garden. Emerging from the trail, The boy steps into a serene garden filled with flowers and falling petals. He pauses, taking in the peaceful scene as he walks forward. The boy approaches a cloaked figure standing alone in the garden. Bathed in soft light, Armin smiles gently, telling him he will handle the rest from here, leaving the boy to deliver the letters to Lord Noah. A man calls out to Lyle Kuan, who turns sharply as petals drift around them. He confirms, hesitantly, that the man is Lord Noah. The elderly man affirms his identity. Lyle bows deeply, apologizing for the unannounced visit, and introduces himself as a repairman bearing a letter from the king addressed to Lord Noah. Lord Noah questions if the letter is from his brother. Lyle reflects on the man's empty eyes and the deep loss he has endured, explaining that besides the king's letter, he carries another addressed to Noah. Lyle presents the second letter, asking Lord Noah to see it for himself. The words are meant to fill the void in Noah's heart and stir his emotions. Noah quietly contemplates as Lyle extends the letter toward him. A hand grips a letter tightly as a voice demands who among the retainers ordered this cruel act. The elderly man's eyes widen in shock. He turns, sweat dripping, and laments that his son Armin is already in such a state. He reflects bitterly that his son was frail from birth. Despite Armin's frailty, he never complained and meant everything to his father. The man recalls pouring all his love into raising him, the treasure entrusted by his beloved wife. A young Armin asks his father what kind of person his mother was. The father remembers how speaking of his late wife brought warmth and calm to his heart. Those moments were gentle and peaceful, nothing extraordinary, but deeply cherished. He believed these times were heaven's reward for their hardships and hoped they would last forever. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a child lying in bed as the man urgently calls out for Armin to wake up. Tears stream down his face as he cries that Armin is all he has left and begs him not to be lost too. The child remains still, unresponsive. The scene continues. The scene continues. The scene continues. The scene continues. Armin, tears streaming down his face, writes a heartfelt letter, his hands trembling with emotion. He promises eternal love to his father, signing the letter with his name before breaking down completely. An elderly man sits among flowers, clutching the letter and weeping. He acknowledges the impossibility, but insists he would never mistake his late son's handwriting. A young man stands nearby, quietly observing. The young man reflects on how much Armin must have suffered, yet still cared deeply for him even after death. The elderly man, tears flowing freely, realizes he must learn to rely on others. The young man assures Lord Noah that everyone in the city truly cared for him, explaining that the city was maintained so carefully to avoid burdening the reclusive lord. He then asks if the old man would also read the king's letter. The letter from His Majesty reveals his deep sorrow over being forced into a succession dispute with Lord Noah, expressing regret for his helplessness to change the situation. Despite everything, he vows that Lord Noah will always remain precious to him, now and forever. The elderly man reflects that his brother has regretted the past all along. Even though he holds no resentment toward His Majesty, he confirms his sincere lack of bitterness and recalls how close they once were, despite being torn apart by political turmoil. He remembers their youth, when they had no say in the matters around them, especially the influence of their mothers who loved them deeply. He admits he should have reached out sooner but let things remain unchanged. Upon learning of Armin's passing and his own loneliness, his brother entrusted him with delivering the letter. He cherishes his brother as his precious elder sibling. The elderly man thanks Repairman Lyle sincerely and decides to start trusting the people precious to him, just as his son advised. The young man responds with a bright affirmation. As the elderly man is approached quietly, he is called Father, while gentle hands reach out to him, signaling a tender moment of connection. The young man kneels before the elderly figure, holding his hands tightly and confessing how truly happy he was to be his child. The old man's eyes well with tears as the young man embraces him, their bond palpable amid falling petals. The elderly man pulls the young man close, whispering, "I love you," as they share a heartfelt embrace. The scene shifts to a grand room where a regal figure acknowledges the young man's efforts, praising the success of his disguise as Lyle. The regal figure assures the young man that his reward will be sent through a messenger. Dismissing any concerns, the young man expresses surprise upon learning that Lond once helped restore family bonds, a fact he had not known. The elder king begins to speak again, prompting the young man to listen intently. The king addresses the young man by his other disguised name, Shots, and inquires about the well-being of his father. The young man's expression darkens as he contemplates the question, the weight of the inquiry hanging heavily in the air. The young man stands alone in a quiet, empty room, his posture formal as he quietly affirms with a simple yes. His hand clenches tightly, betraying a surge of restrained emotion. Then, with a soft smile, he declares that his father has not changed at all, the weight of this truth settling deeply within him. 2 weeks after the audience with the king, Summer approaches the kingdom. Asha, drenched in sweat, slumps over a desk. Overwhelmed by the heat, she mutters Nura. As someone remarks, she's melting impressively. Repairman Lal checks on Asha, asking if she's okay. She explains her body is mechanical, so there's no need to worry about being human in the heat. Lal wonders if the heat could cause a malfunction but notes she seems fine. He recalls his father wanting to visit a grave soon, realizing the time has come. The kingdom of Elta observes a custom where families visit graves at the start of summer, believing ancestors return to their resting places. Lal decides to greet his grandfather soon. Asha asks if something is wrong and offers to prepare something cold. Lyle, disguised as Shots, quietly wonders about his father's well-being. As Lyle enters his shop, Asha greets him tiredly. An elderly couple arrives, asking if this is the recently famous Repairman's shop. Lyle politely replies he's fine as the couple's presence marks a new encounter. Repairman Lyle sits with an elderly couple who confirm they handle grave repairs. They explain they manage graves on the outskirts of the royal capital as gravekeepers. During the season, many people come to clean graves, but recently, the number of adventurers' graves has increased, along with damage to graves of those without relatives. The elderly woman expresses their wish to pray for all souls equally, admitting they have grown quite old. The man recalls meeting many who had no one left and had to become adventurers just to survive. Lal understands why Mr. Take requested their help, though the man finds it embarrassing. Lal quietly vows to mourn those souls properly and assures the couple he will handle the task. The scene shifts to a cemetery gate a few days later, signaling the start of the grave visits. He stands among countless graves, noting the large number will require about 2 weeks to prepare. Suddenly, he notices a figure approaching from behind. Rico, who greets him by name, startling him with her unexpected presence. Repairman Lyle is greeted warmly by Rico, who thanks him for his help the other day and explains it's been a while since Guardies because it's summer. An elderly man notices Rico's arrival and asks if she's come back. Lyle, a bit confused, is about to introduce the two of them. The elderly man introduces Rico as their daughter. Lyle reflects on his progress, realizing 4 days have only allowed him to finish half the graves, many more neglected than expected. Kneeling before a grave, Lyle thinks about how most of the neglected graves belong to adventurers who died helping others but remain forgotten. Mr. Take thanks Lyle sincerely, admitting his loneliness is the only reason for his request, and that is enough. Mr. Take touches a grave tenderly, explaining that the saddest thing for the dead is to be forgotten. As long as they remain in someone's memory, they continue to live within that person's heart. Lyle understands why they care for the graves so devotedly, knowing the importance of remembrance. Repairman Lyle reflects that the work of a repairman and a gravekeeper are quite similar, both preserving the connections between people. He calls it a wonderful and honorable job, which moves Mr. Take to thank him deeply, saying his wife and Rico will be happy to hear that. Mr. Take wonders if Rico hasn't returned because of Lyle's presence, but quickly apologizes for the thought. Lyle reassures him it's not his fault. The old man explains their profession as necromancers is something people tend to hate, prompting Lyle to question the term. Mr. Take reveals his family has long been tasked with calming the spirits of the country, though their abilities don't quite match the grand title. He clarifies that while people believe necromancers control souls and bodies of the dead, they actually only communicate with spirits and manage remains. The name necromancer spread first, making them a target of scorn. Lyle realizes this burden has affected Rico as well. Mr. Take admits that people's perceptions are hard to change, but Lyle's earlier words truly made him happy. Mr. Take suggests Rico might have stayed away because she feared Lyle discovered her secret. He hesitates but then decides to end the conversation. Noting it's already late, the scene shifts to a quiet night outside a house. Inside, Lyle asks why Rico became an adventurer, admitting it's a rude question. The woman sitting nearby acknowledges Rico's family are known as necromancers and expresses her desire to respect Rico's secret while trusting Lyle. She asks why he wants to know. Lyle confesses he worries he may have hurt Rico by uncovering her secret. He recalls how Rico once helped him with her power and wonders why he saw Armin in Guardies. He now understands that Rico connected him and Armin. He reflects that although Rico didn't want her secret known, she used her power to fulfill the wishes of the dead. He feels Mr. Take's sadness was more regret than mere prejudice. The reason Rico became an adventurer instead of a necromancer might be something deeper than discrimination, leaving Lyle silent in thought. A man calmly promises to explain, prompting a surprised reaction from Lyle. He reveals that Rico endured daily bullying and harassment for being a necromancer since childhood. During that time, her older brother Riot protected her. A young Riko cries alone until her brother finds her and gently comforts her. She clings to him, calling him Big Brother. While he asks if something happened again, Riot explains that others said their family was strange and excluded him. He asks Riko if she will play with her big brother, and she eagerly agrees. She then notices his arm injury and asks about it, causing him to pause. Riot says he just tripped earlier and insists it doesn't hurt. Riko praises him for being strong, and he smiles warmly. The scene shifts to a joyful moment where a little girl excitedly shows a crafted item her big brother made, drawing admiration from a woman nearby. Riot is truly kind and caring toward his little sister, but a big brother must be strong as well as kind to protect her. Clenching his fist, he affirms that of course that's the plan, because he is the big brother and would do anything for Riko. A young Riko eagerly holds up a picture book, calling for her big brother to read it to her. She opens the door and peeks inside, but no one answers. She asks quietly if her big brother is not there, her hopeful expression fading as she looks around the empty room. The room is quiet and still, with Riko standing alone near the open door, the picture book lying open on the floor. The scene lingers on the empty space and scattered books, capturing the sudden, silent farewell. The truth is revealed. Riko's older brother Riot took his own life. He was bullied because of the family business, and the pressure from his parents' hopes for him and his younger sister overwhelmed his mind. This heavy burden explains why Riot's grave lies in a quiet cemetery. The narrator reflects that meeting Armin, thanks to Riko, might only bring harm to her. A letter expressing gratitude for the chance to meet Armin is held, while a young boy stands quietly in a doorway. Clenching his fists, the man worries that getting involved could hurt Riko again. He fears that if things continue like this, something terrible will happen. Suddenly, he hears a voice calling for help. Confused, he looks around the empty cemetery, questioning if anyone is really there. The voice pleads urgently, begging him to bring Riko here. The man wonders if it could be his little sister, standing alone among the gravestones. He calls out Riot's name in shock, running desperately through the cemetery. He admits he can't communicate with the voice's owner, nor understand why he can hear it, insisting he's not a necromancer. His frantic pace is driven by more than just desperation. The overwhelming regret in the voice shakes him deeply. He enters a room where a woman wrapped in a blanket asks if it's him. Lyle, apologizing for barging in, she quickly reassures him to come inside. Sitting across from her, he apologizes for intruding and explains he heard about her brother's case. She listens quietly as he says he had no intention of hurting Riko. He wonders if the voice was just his imagination but admits he couldn't ignore it. She tells him she doesn't believe he had any malice and won't hold him responsible. The woman remains silent, then confesses that the voice calling her was probably just her imagination. She apologizes for making him come all this way, then reveals her deepest pain. Her brother died because of her, and she believes there's no way he would ever rely on her now. She reflects that even though her brother suffered, he was burdened by her as well. If she hadn't been there, he might have lived more freely. She insists this isn't a guess. It was written in the letter he left behind. She tells him she saw it and that it's not her fault. She recalls the letter saying no one would help her brother anyway. Despite being helped, she never noticed his suffering. Back then, he had already given up on her, which is why he would never rely on her now. He abruptly tells her to get out, apologizing as he does, outside, under the night sky. He sits alone on a bench, troubled, thinking he only ended up reopening her wounds. Jack approaches, asking what he's doing. He confirms there's no voice calling Riko in the graveyard. Jack reassures him not to worry, saying what's done is done. He believes Riko is probably struggling with how she should face her older brother. Sitting on a bench, Lal reflects that Riko is kind and likely understands she can't stay stuck forever. He wonders if she can take a step forward. Riot notices Lyle has been watching Riko closely. Lal blushes, embarrassed, and insists it's just because they're comrades. Suddenly, someone calls out to them. Mr. Take arrives, clutching his chest and urgently explains that spirits are overflowing and coming out of graves. Due to poor management, communication with the spirits failed, and evil spirits are now threatening to attack the royal capital. Riot reacts with shock to the news. Take asks how to stop the spirits, and Lal suggests asking the adventurers. Riot demands they bring Riko, his sister, to help Mr. Take grimaces but agrees. Riot insists it's not the adventurers they need, but Riko's power. Lal commands Take to go get Lind and tells him to leave Riko to him. Take is surprised but agrees. Lal declares it's time for Take to face Riko properly, accusing him of avoiding her despite knowing the heavy responsibility she bears. He lashes out, unable to forgive the silence that let Riko suffer alone all this time. warning that just smiling and running away won't fix anything, despite the old man's quiet hesitation. He admits that avoiding reckless interference might be better. Two figures hurry away as determination hardens in his gaze. Night falls outside a quiet house. Inside, a lone figure lies curled on a bed, the room bathed in stillness and shadows. The wind stirs her hair gently, emphasizing her solitude. She wrestles with despair, thinking no one will help her despite being told to bring Rico. Her curled posture on the bed reflects her inner turmoil as she questions what she is supposed to do. Memories flood back. Seeking salvation like long ago, always running away from losing her brother and the burden of being a necromancer, becoming an adventurer and risking her life was both atonement and escape. Yet the weight still presses down on her. Fighting a giant serpent, she believes that if she keeps risking herself, she might finally reach her brother's side. Yet, in a quiet room, she sits with companions she's made along the way, realizing she's no longer alone. Despite this, she sees them as her only emotional refuge, a place to escape sorrow and responsibility, even if only briefly, but relying on them again feels like forcing her burdens onto others. The fear grows that if they give up on her, she'll be left utterly alone. She curls up on her bed, tears falling silently. When a knock at the door breaks the silence, a voice asks gently if it's okay to come in. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a tense battle where a warrior warns a young man to avoid touching a mysterious mist that causes possession and loss of self. The young man nervously acknowledges the warning, bracing for what's to come. The young warrior struggles, realizing their slashes have no effect on the shadowy spirits advancing. A companion urgently warns that these spirits are heading toward the town. The looming threat presses closer as the group stands defensively by the gate. The young man, sweat beading on his face, admits they have no choice but to trust and wait. He pleads silently for Jack to act, desperate for a solution as the spirits demand. Bring Rico here. A graveyard lies quiet under drifting light. The young man freezes, realizing he cannot go any further. His thoughts turn to Rico, wondering if she will come. He reassures himself that Jack is the one who cares about Rico the most. Jack enters a room where a woman and a maid stand. She asks why he is here, and he admits he suddenly wanted to see Rico. The woman notes his timing is the worst and sees something deeper in his expression. Jack smiles, mentioning that their father is here too, which seems fitting. The woman pushes Jack gently, telling him she told Ryle as well. She insists this is her problem and that she doesn't want to see anyone right now. Her hands press firmly, begging him to go back. Jack asks if Rico, as a necromancer, has ever spoken with Riot. She cannot, and the truth is revealed. She is scared. Her feet tremble in slippers as she admits her fear. She breaks down in tears, confessing the unbearable weight of being told by her brother that he died because of her. Fear grips her at the thought of relying on others again, pushing her problems onto them, causing their suffering, and then being abandoned. He gently takes her hands, calling her name softly before confessing his love and liking for her. She blushes, overwhelmed, and warns him not to mess around, her voice trembling. He embraces her tightly, insisting he is serious about his feelings. She leans into the hug, tears still falling, as the moment deepens. Holding her close, he urges her that bottling up feelings isn't good and reveals he has truly been thinking of her. He asks if she knew this before, breaking through her walls with sincere care. He tells Rico she must properly express her feelings to others, or it's as if those feelings don't exist. No matter how much she wonders how others see her, she'll never know for sure. He asks her what feeling she wanted to convey. Pressing gently in an embrace, tears well in her eyes as she faces the question. She struggles to find the words, gripping her clothes tightly, stammering her hesitation. Outside, Jack and a girl worry they might be too late, fearing they'll be left outside the graveyard. Suddenly, he calls out Rico's name urgently, and they both spring into action. The spirits around them begin to retreat, surprising the girl who asks why. Rico appears, walking determinedly toward them with a serious expression. Jack waves apologetically to Rind, admitting he's a little late, but relieved to see her. She apologizes to Ryle for driving the spirits away earlier, then urgently asks him to follow her. Surprised, he questions the request, but she firmly states she will calm the spirits and wants him to come behind her. Walking among the restless spirits, she silently assures them that they are still remembered. The spirits linger, watching her as she pleads for them to rest easy. She focuses on healing the raging spirits' hearts, facing what has long been ignored and telling them they are not alone. Her determined expression shows her resolve as she moves forward directly toward the source of unrest. Ryle watches in awe at the gentle light she radiates, finding it incredibly beautiful even as a living person. She catches her breath, reminding him they must finish repairing the gravestone soon. Suddenly, she shouts for him to run away, startling him as ominous shadows begin to advance. Shadows with glowing eyes creep toward the young man standing firm, but he suddenly clutches his throat, gasping in pain. His eyes widen in shock as he struggles to breathe, while another watches him with concern. He collapses to his knees, coughing violently as the dark spirits close in. His legs buckle beneath him, and he falls hard to the ground. A voice urgently calls his name, breaking through the chaos. Lying on the ground, he reflects bitterly that his life was filled only with mistakes. A memory surfaces of a child kneeling beside an elderly man's bed, questioning the meaning of life. The child softly insists that this isn't true. The child, tears streaming, holds the old man's hand tightly, promising to become a repairman and carry on his feelings. He pleads for the old man not to say such despairing things, his voice trembling with emotion. A woman calls out desperately for Ryle, panic rising as she checks his pulse and finds it weak. Tears stream down her face as she struggles to accept the dire situation. Her voice trembling in disbelief. Nearby, others kneel around him, their concern palpable. She collapses to the ground, overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow, apologizing repeatedly for her inability to save anyone. She admits to running away and feeling useless, her tears falling freely as she laments her failures. Suddenly, a young man grabs her shoulders, urging her not to lose hope. He insists she isn't not good enough, even if she feels alone, encouraging her to believe in herself despite her doubts. The woman and the young man exchange surprised, tearful glances. A calm figure with a braid approaches, offering quiet reassurance, his presence bringing a subtle sense of peace to the tense moment. Tears stream down the woman's face as she struggles to speak, barely able to say "B." The man with the braid offers a gentle smile and softly asks, "Big brother?" before extending his hand toward her. Standing apart, the man gestures toward the woman while the injured young man lies on the ground. The braided man apologizes quietly, expressing deep sorrow until the very end. As their hands reach out toward each other, two women kneel beside the fallen young man, tending to him with solemn care. The braided man reflects quietly, acknowledging the weight of everything that has happened all this time. At a graveyard, the braided man thanks Ryle, confirming that the grave repairs are complete. Ryle responds that now everyone can rest peacefully, and the woman walking nearby agrees, relieved that the task is finished. She recalls the day she finally thanked her brother and began speaking slowly with her parents. Tears reveal she had wrongly believed he hated her. She admits she ran away and did nothing, realizing she had never said "thank you" to her brother. She turns to Ryle, expressing gratitude to him as well. He admits he only fainted and caused trouble, but acknowledges that thanks to her, the spirits calmed down. She insists that if Ryle hadn't delivered her brother's voice, nothing would have changed. Ryle listens quietly as she reflects that many appreciate him. She advises him to always face every feeling sincerely, embodying the way of being a repairman she has always aimed for. A quiet moment passes between them, the woman watching silently as he gathers his resolve. He admits he must express his feelings with words, not just keep them inside. With a heartfelt smile, he thanks her sincerely. The weight of unspoken emotions lifts as he realizes that if feelings aren't conveyed, it's as if they never existed at all. 2 months after the graveyard repairs, 3 friends gather around a table, raising their drinks in a cheerful toast. One exclaims how nothing beats a drink after a job well done. The mood shifts as a question arises about the unspoken rule at Lyle's shop. Why they can't talk about certain things there. Reflecting on recent events with MS, Rico, one admits trying to thank everyone properly but struggling to find the right words. Asha, curious about the sudden change, assures it's nothing, while the others express surprise and confusion. The hesitation to express gratitude lingers, especially when addressing Asha directly. Concerned about Asha's recent behavior, the friends ask if something is wrong. She denies any issues, but the worry deepens. Another offers help for a toothache, which she declines. Gratitude is exchanged for her crucial support in clearing a difficult request, lightening the mood with laughter and teasing about the real reason behind the conversation. The conversation turns to the difficulty of expressing feelings to those close to you. Admitting that embarrassment is normal, Asha confesses she probably never would have said it if not for recent events. Noting that Lyle shares the same struggle, the scene closes with a playful admonishment not to be a jerk, ending on a warm, understanding note. He admits feeling awkward because Asha matters to him, while another reminds them both they aren't any better. Sitting together, one thanks the others for always being reliable. He offers to do anything if needed but then grins, saying he has news to share. The others react with surprise and excitement, shouting congratulations and asking about the wedding. He explains that if all goes well, it might happen in a month, though it could be difficult. When asked if something is wrong, he mentions Lind won't let it go despite his reassurances. He reveals that Jack comes from a prestigious knightly family and was raised strictly from childhood. Jack ran away but can't ignore his family if it's about marriage. They plan a day for introductions, but he can't attend because he's been summoned by the king. Despite worries about Rico's bloodline, he believes he can handle the situation. Offering to go in his place, he asks if the others want him to attend. The scene shifts to a few days later, where he apologizes for involving Lady Asha in the matter, but she responds that it's not a problem at all. A young woman reminds the others that Lyle is in their care, saying it's only right. As they walk through the noble's quarter, whispers follow them, questioning why the necromancer's daughter is there. The young man warns not to make eye contact. Acknowledging the cruel prejudice against Rico's family, she stands alone, feeling the weight of this harsh reality. They arrive at a grand mansion. Inside, the young man opens a door cautiously, stepping into an elegantly decorated room. An older man with a stern expression confronts them. Surprised Jack is still alive, Jack responds with a simple yes. Nearby, another young man watches, overwhelmed by the intense pressure in the room. The young woman formally introduces herself as Rico to Lord Ricardo. He grimaces, calling necromancy a filthy, base profession. Jack listens silently as Rico explains that necromancers handle the bodies of the dead, visibly shaken by the disdain she faces. A stern voice demands Jack if he truly believes himself free after running off, warning him he must marry someone fitting his station. Jack clenches his fist and fiercely refuses, ordering the man to apologize immediately. Another young man urgently tells Jack to calm down, fearing that if Jack strikes first, there will be no turning back. Meanwhile, a woman thanks Lyle for his efforts and asks him to look after two individuals who deserve recognition and celebration. The older man interrupts Jack, asserting that a child like him should remain silent and obey their parents' instructions. The weight of these words falls heavily on Jack, leaving him speechless. His mind goes completely blank as he processes the harsh reality. The tense atmosphere lingers in the elegant room, with Jack clinging silently to the older man while others watch on. A man slams his fist on the door, demanding an apology. A young woman and two others watch silently, shocked and tense. The man's anger fills the room as he insists, "Apologize." The man is confronted sharply, questioned what he thinks he's doing. The angered man repeats his demand to apologize, specifically, to them. The young woman calls out, "Lyle?" While the others stand apart, the atmosphere heavy and disconnected, as if his mind and body are no longer in sync. The young man's inner voice breaks through, declaring that even parents don't have the right to steal their child's freedom. Memories flash of a heated argument, and he admits he couldn't stop himself from speaking out. His face is shadowed with regret as he voices, "A child isn't your..." The word hangs in the air. Property. The room remains silent, the weight of the statement settling. Outside, the young man sits on the grass, head bowed, while the young woman stands nearby, expressing relief that he has calmed down and apologizing gently. "Sorry, Asha." The young man admits he's never seen the other like that before. Honestly, she asks if it scared him, but he denies it. He apologizes for making her come all this way and putting her through that. When asked what exactly happened, he confesses that things with his dad aren't good either. He confronts his father, demanding why he won't acknowledge him. His father angrily retorts, calling him a good-for-nothing and questions if he's really going to chase after that worthless person too. The young man calmly replies that the man was his father. The young man accuses his father of never visiting his bedridden grandfather, not even when he was sick, despite knowing his grandfather had little time left. His father stubbornly refused to see him. The young man reflects that he was the one who stayed with his grandfather until the very end. He recalls the funeral his father held for appearances, but the bored look on his face as he stared at the coffin remains unforgettable. The young man questions why he ever thought he needed his father's approval. Ignoring his father's call, he declares he's leaving to become a repairman. The young man sits alone on the grass, confessing that he ran away from home and never returned. A distant figure stands inside a dimly lit room, emphasizing the emotional distance between them. A woman gently acknowledges his pain. Understanding what happened, he apologizes for hiding his feelings and admits he made things worse by getting emotionally involved. Two others approach him, asking if he is all right now. The young man apologizes for disrespecting the woman's father, but admits that his words helped him decide to move forward. Despite their parents' disapproval, he resolves to walk forward together with the woman, blaming himself for the situation. The scene shifts to an older man, tense and troubled. insisting that if they don't get the young man to accept something now, they can't take it back. The narration reveals a rift between parent and child that cannot be bridged. The older man warns that if the young man won't acknowledge the situation here, there's no chance to take it back. The young woman remains silent, troubled, while the young man looks determined. He admits that the moment he left that house, there was no turning back. Trying to fix things now was always a long shot. The young woman is told not to make that face, and the young man reassures her. He confirms they will proceed with the ceremony as planned in 1 week. The young man excuses himself, saying he needs to pick up some materials nearby, and asks the two to go on ahead. The young man contemplates apologizing no matter what, unsure if the master will see him. A servant confirms the master will see him. The young man approaches the older man standing by the window and begins apologizing for his earlier rudeness. But the older man replies that he doesn't understand it. The older man admits that hearing what the young man said hit him hard. He asks if the young man will listen to his excuse, and the young man agrees, silently questioning the meaning of an excuse. The older man requests the young man hear him out. He confesses he wanted Jack to become a fine knight and believed it was for Jack's own good. So he was hard on him. But then Jack ran away, and he felt deeply betrayed back then. He reflects that maybe that's why he couldn't accept the fiancée Jack chose for himself, and admits to having said cruel things to the necromancer girl. The young man sharply reminds him that parents don't have the right to steal their child's freedom, and the older man acknowledges the truth in that. The older man admits he's been spoiled, thinking his son would never disappoint him or disobey, but now he feels like a failure as a father and doesn't know what to do. He realizes his words reached Lord Ricardo not because what he did was right. Clenching his fists, he concludes the only reason Lord Ricardo could take his selfish words that way is because Ricardo already wanted to face Jack. He quietly affirms, that's what he thinks. The young man urges the older man that there is still time and he must tell Jack. The older man looks down, conflicted as the young man stands firmly. The older man is addressed as Lyle and is reminded he is the best repairman in the capital. Lyle opens a box containing broken jewelry and requests a repair, admitting he is the kind of father who can't even visit his son without an excuse. He asks if a month is enough time. The young man agrees, saying by then he will have made up his mind. The young man confirms the repair will be done 1 week from now. Lyle protests, shocked that 1 week is so soon, questioning if materials and other work can be managed in that time. The young man insists it is fine. The young man tells Lyle to come to his shop 1 week from now. Lyle looks stunned, sweat running down his face. The scene shifts to a building exterior as the narration marks 1 week later. The woman apologizes to Jack for making him worry until the last moment, blaming the stubbornness between him and his father. She insists it's not Jack's fault and urges him to smile for her. Jack compliments her beauty, making her blush as she thanks him quietly. He gently takes her hand, inviting her to leave together. The scene shifts briefly to a church steeple. They descend the grand staircase arm in arm, passing smiling guests. Jack notices an older couple watching them with warm expressions. Jack reflects that if he had been more honest, his father might have accepted at least one of his choices. The woman happily embraces the elderly couple, while Jack smiles softly, petals drifting around them. The young man freezes in shock, eyes wide as he spots an older man approaching with a serious expression. The older man walks alongside Lyle, surrounded by a group of shadowed figures. The young man's thoughts race. Why is his father with Lyle? The woman's voice trembles as she quietly calls out, questioning if it's really Lord Ricardo. The older man extends a small box toward the young man, who nervously accepts it. He explains he came to deliver something important. Inside the box lies a delicate, ornate bracelet. The young man recognizes it immediately as belonging to his father and grandfather. The scene shifts to a memory of a young boy crying as a stern man gently pats his head. The young man recalls that the bracelet symbolizes the bond between father and son. The memory lingers on the boy's tearful face, the first time he ever saw his strict father cry. Back in the present, the older man's tears fall freely as he speaks of the unbreakable bond between parent and child, lasting a lifetime. The young man's voice trembles as he addresses Lord Ricardo as his father. A woman in a flowing dress rushes toward them, her expression filled with surprise and emotion. The older man bows deeply, apologizing to Ms. Rico for making her uncomfortable the other day. She urges him to raise his head, assuring him it's fine, with a gentle, tearful expression. She admits she's not in a position to ask but pleads for him to take care of her son. Ms. Rico smiles warmly, tears streaming down her face as she says yes. The older man, touched, pats the young man's head affectionately. The young man looks up at him, surprised, while another figure watches quietly from the side. The young man, blushing and teary-eyed, is congratulated by the older man who gently ruffles his hair. He looks down at his wrist, fastening the delicate bracelet with a trembling hand, overwhelmed by the moment. The young man thanks his father, wiping tears away. Ms. Rico stands nearby, watching silently. A woman calls out to Lyle, who suddenly stumbles, apologizing for being a mess. The woman scolds him gently for always pushing himself too hard as she supports him. She urges him to sit, amazed by his soft heart. He admits he always shows her his worst side. She gently holds his arm, thanking him always, her eyes shining with emotion. She gasps, worried, asking what's wrong. He stammers, denying anything, but she confesses her gratitude to him. Suddenly, her expression shifts as something unseen startles her. He collapses to the ground. Someone urgently calls his name, asking if he's okay. The scene shifts to a quiet, empty room, the atmosphere heavy with concern. A man lies in bed, lost in thought. He reflects that a parent and child's bond can be restored. Memories flash of reunions and embraces, revealing many of his past jobs involved reconnecting families. He gazes upward, contemplative and hopeful. When someone shows you a light of hope, you can't help but reach for it. Maybe the conflict between me and my father, maybe it was just one button off the whole time. Sitting on the edge of a bed, he grips the blanket tightly, determined with my dad. I'm gonna face him again, at last, back to Lyle's origin. Asha is addressed with an apology for yesterday. She assures him not to worry. Noting he seems fully recovered now, he thanks her quietly, then nervously admits he has another request. He clenches his fist, asking if something is wrong before inviting Asha to come with him to his family home. She responds with surprise, questioning his sudden request. He explains that she's the only one he's been able to talk to about his family situation. Asha, blushing and flustered, is asked if she's ready to face it. She admits she's not completely prepared yet but willing. Asha questions if he's rushing things, and he acknowledges it silently, the weight of the decision clear on his face. She explains that problems like these can't be solved overnight, but take time. Like slowly untangling a knot of threads until everything comes loose, he's told to just take a deep breath for now. He quietly calls her name, Asha. She reassures him it's all right to take things one step at a time. He admits she's right with a small smile. She offers to accompany him if he still wants to take action. He listens silently, considering her words. He reflects on how Asha has always been by his side, recalling moments they shared. A grateful smile crosses his face as he thanks her. The scene shifts to a grand building, symbolizing a new chapter. Walking through a familiar street, he admits the road feels nostalgic and strange. When asked if he's nervous, he says it just feels a little strange. He realizes he's been avoiding his problems all this time, even though he's supposed to be going home. He admits that although he always told others how important family bonds and memories are, he struggles with those feelings himself. She reminds him that he's always been there for his clients, and she doesn't believe his feelings were ever a lie. He looks at her, urged to have confidence in himself. They walk through a quaint town, discussing how it would be rude to show up empty-handed for such a special occasion. She asks if he thinks his parents will like something from the town, and he agrees, surprised by the question. He notices a flower crown made of artificial flowers and wonders about it. He recalls how each flower color carries a different meaning, and she confirms this. He remembers seeing his father give his mother a red flower crown, which symbolizes a wish. Though he couldn't talk about it before, he's seen his grandfather making one like it. Alone in a quiet room, he reflects on the flower crown, thinking his grandfather was trying to give it to his father. The expression on his grandfather's face was different from when he was doing repairs. A frightened face, despite knowing it could only be a falsehood. He was cornered and desperately struggling, as if trying to change something. Ryle asks Asha about the meaning of a blue flower crown. She smiles warmly and explains it means, "You are a precious treasure." He clenches his fist, realizing his grandfather's feelings were genuine. Determined, Ryle walks with purpose. Thinking this situation can't continue, he vows to settle matters with his father and grandfather, ending a grudge spanning 3 generations and freeing his grandfather from regret. Asha follows closely behind. They arrive at a large, stately house. Asha quietly notes it's the house where Lyle grew up. Ryle knocks on the door, announcing their arrival. The door opens, revealing a woman who greets them. Ryle calls her Mom, and she responds with surprise. Recognizing him as Lyle, he warmly says he's home. Asha embraces Lyle tightly, welcoming him home with warmth. Lyle, surprised, explains his father is out working. Asha curiously asks who the young lady beside him is, catching both off guard. Lyle introduces the young lady as Asha, apologizing for not introducing her sooner. He praises her as a kind girl who has always supported him. The other woman excitedly realizes Asha is the one Lyle promised his future to. The woman accuses Lyle of hiding his engagement from them, assuming he returned because of it. Lyle nervously denies the accusation and apologizes to Asha. Asha blushes, admitting she doesn't really know how to respond. Lyle cheerfully declares he wants a heart-to-heart talk with Asha, surprising her. He watches as she is pulled away, noting she hasn't changed at all. His gaze falls on a carefully kept blue flower crown, confirming his suspicions. He reflects on how his father always despised the profession of a repairman, but he wanted to prove how that hated work could bring happiness to people. He believes that if he shows this, someday his father will understand, and they could become a true family. He carefully takes out tools and begins repairing a delicate blue flower crown, hoping that fixing his grandfather's gift will help his father accept Repairman. He imagines starting over from here. Suddenly, a man enters the room and calls out his name. Lyle. Lyle greets him excitedly, asking if the flower crown is a gift from their grandfather. The visitor approaches, confirming the connection. The visitor explains that Lyle's father always wanted to make up with him, which is why he made and gave the blue flower crown. Lyle admits he repaired it, despite much time passing, smiling warmly as he confirms this. He reassures himself that everything will be all right, though doubts linger that his father truly wants this. No one wants their family to fall apart, he thinks, but now all that remains is for his father to accept their grandfather's feelings. Holding the repaired blue flower crown, he silently hopes for reconciliation. His father stands silently, holding the flower crown, then coldly warns him not to mess with him. He questions if he ever asked for the crown to be repaired. His tone sharp and distant. The son looks surprised but listens as his father challenges whether he really wanted it fixed. The father's words sting. His expression unreadable as he holds the crown out. The son's face shifts between confusion and hurt, caught off guard by the harsh rejection. The father suddenly erupts, shouting that repairmen are selfish people who only care about satisfying themselves. His voice echoes fiercely as he throws the flower crown down, shattering the fragile symbol of hope. Turning away, the father declares he will never, ever accept it. The son watches in stunned silence, the weight of his father's rejection crashing down as the flower crown lies broken on the floor. The son shouts fiercely that he will never try to reconcile with his father or with his grandfather. His voice cracks with anger as he violently throws the broken flower crown to the ground. The father stands silently, expression unreadable, watching the shattered symbol fall. The broken flower crown lies on the floor as the son stands inside a quiet room, stunned and speechless. A soft voice calls his name from the doorway, drawing his attention. He turns sharply, eyes wide with surprise and confusion. The son looks around the empty room, voice trembling as he asks if someone is there. A young woman peeks from behind a door, quietly calling his name again. The son's gaze falls to the broken flower crown on the floor, his feelings shattered to pieces. A man stands silently in a spacious room, staring at the broken flower crown on the floor. A woman approaches a young girl, gently apologizing to her. The man turns and quietly leaves the room, leaving the girl looking troubled. The girl shouts in frustration, demanding the man stop. She calls his name, but he remains distant, reflecting that he knows his father must have cherished the flower crown too. His anger erupts as he questions why restorers are so inconsiderate, holding the broken crown tightly. Kneeling on the floor, the man clutches a flower petal, confessing his deep desire for his father to acknowledge him. His expression is heavy with longing and pain as he holds the fragile petal delicately. The flower crown lies broken as the man remains kneeling, supported by the girl beside him. He admits that maybe his father will never truly accept him, and wonders what would remain if restoration were taken away from him. The girl watches him with concern as the weight of his feelings hangs in the quiet room. On that day, he gave up on ever getting his father's approval. The cold night sky looms over a grand building as his gaze falls on a young girl nearby, her expression quiet and thoughtful. In the 5 years since then, he has thrown himself into restoration, as if trying to fill a void. Inside a modest workshop, he works diligently, carving carefully into a piece of wood, surrounded by tools and furniture. 5 years later, snow falls gently as he stands outside his shop, noting how the sign has aged with time. He smiles softly, acknowledging that 6 years have passed since the shop opened, the cold air visible in his breath. Memories flood back. Everything was a first for him, and he was always in a panic. Yet the people he met during those days became the foundation supporting who he is now. Suddenly sneezing from the cold, he is warned to come inside lest he catch a cold, and a comforting arm wraps around him as he turns away from the chill. Asha greets Lyle with a warm good morning as snow falls around them. Lyle returns the greeting, but his gaze lingers on her, causing her to ask if something is wrong. He quickly denies it, brushing off his hesitation. Lal compliments Asha, telling her how much more beautiful she has become, which startles her and causes her to blush deeply. She shyly insists he stop, but he insists again, making her flustered, despite her embarrassment. She quietly reflects that Asha has always stayed by his side. Inside, a maid named Lena greets Asha and Lyle, warning Lyle he might catch a cold covered in snow. She mentions that Mr. Luzian has been troubled lately despite his usual energy. Asha asks about his health, and Lena confirms he's been a bit troubled. Lyle, surprised, asks what she means by troubled. Asha and Lyle sit with Lena, discussing Mr. Luzian's condition. Lena explains that although he can no longer see, he remains quite healthy. She expresses her wish for him to continue living well. Lyle asks Lena how she usually responds to Mr. Luzian, listening attentively as the conversation continues. Lena scolds an older man for saying unsettling things and urges him to just eat his dinner. But he sulks like a child. A young man smiles warmly, calling them a lovely family. Suddenly, another young man rushes in, apologizing for oversleeping. The young man who overslept greets everyone, catching his breath. Another asks if he pulled another all-nighter, and he admits he did. They discuss a commission that didn't go as planned, with one asking if it involved certain earrings, which the other confirms. The young man with the apron says the commission's details are more intricate than expected and invites the other to examine it closely in the atelier. The group, including Lena, prepares to start their day, encouraging each other to do their best again. The narration reflects that the members of Repair the Memories remain unchanged, though their hearts and surroundings are slowly shifting. A cloaked figure sitting on a couch asks if the others have heard the news, hinting at upcoming changes. A cloaked figure asks about the temple on the public road collapsing. Others agree it's frightening that a divine structure would break. Two people worry if something significant is about to occur. Lena arrives, apologizing for the wait. The man confirms the temple collapsed and wonders if it was part of the Lugnica faith. He recalls passing it long ago, already in disrepair. They worry about Tyro and if the temple's destruction will affect Lyle, who restored the scriptures. Lyle laughs it off, saying a temple is beyond him. The scene shifts to a grand castle where a king addresses Restorer Lyle. Acknowledging it's been a while, the king admits surprise at summoning him again so soon. He requests Lyle restore the Lugnica temple, explaining the reason for the summons is simple. The king explains the temples of the Lugnica faith have been maintained since ancient times through cooperation among the kingdom, Guardies lords, and elves. However, due to the failure of scripture restoration by Rondo and political struggles with Noah, their coordination fell apart, leaving the temple's maintenance neglected. The king admits their grandfather's failure led to the temple's collapse and asks Lyle to accept the request to restore it within their generation. The man expresses doubt about meeting expectations, mentioning he received a letter from Noah who wants to entrust the matter to Lyle. The older man acknowledges Lyle's unique role, saying he has connected many people's feelings and is irreplaceable to Noah. The older man clenches his fist, pleading with Lyle to restore their bonds, emphasizing that because it is Lyle, he asks this favor as well. In a workshop, a young man confirms he must see the restoration site himself before knowing for sure. Even if it's within his capabilities, he promises to work hard, determined not to disappoint the king's trust. Lena notices Lyle's stiff expression and asks if he's all right. Lyle admits anxiety, feeling the weight of the request and the temple's collapse being partly his grandfather's fault. Lena gently asks if he's still worried about his grandfather, as he quietly contemplates. Lyle admits he guesses he's given up and forgotten, but it's hard not to care. Lena suggests they pay their respects to Mr. Rondo, surprised. Lyle agrees with a grateful smile. They arrive at a snowy cemetery, pausing before a grave adorned with flowers. Lyle wonders if someone else has come here. Two figures approach, and Lyle recognizes their voices. The taller one greets him. Noting it's been a long time, Lyle asks if the person beside her is someone he knows. The woman introduces herself as Elisa, an assistant to Lyle's grandfather, Master Rondo. She explains they have been sent to assist with the temple restoration and looks forward to working with him. Elisa kneels before a grave, her hand resting gently on the stone as she speaks softly, acknowledging it has been a long time. Addressing it as Mr. Rondo, three figures approach quietly through the falling snow. One of them, a young man, listens as the other, an elf with sharp features, explains that the woman is deeply grateful from the bottom of her heart. The young man reacts with surprise, trying to grasp the meaning behind the words. She reflects on the kindness and strength of the woman they speak of, explaining that she believes the mistake made by the grandfather was a necessary trial. Flashbacks reveal moments of deep sadness and shock connected to this mistake. But Elisa emphasizes that despite the pain, the woman chose to look forward. The young man absorbs this, realizing the depth of her resolve. The scene shifts to moments of quiet determination. Elisa resolves to do what she can, while an older man and a woman nearby show their faith in the young man. He acknowledges the weight of the request, admitting it makes him nervous after so many years. With renewed resolve, he vows to make the request a success, committing fully to the task ahead.